gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Built by the Barndominium Company, served by Chicken Cock Whiskey, and part of the Chief Sports Network.
Juice Wells, all the way, touchdown Gamecocks.
Pressure, and he just dives in.
Dozier, notice.
Here's J.C. Sherbert, Phil Mullinax, and Jamie Bradford.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home inside the Gamecocks, the show live from the Signorama Studios. They are the preferred sign partner of the Gamecocks, Signorama.com, owned by Matt Vaughn in West Columbia. I'm trying to get a hold of Matt, but would love to see him very soon and certainly appreciate everything he does for the Gamecocks. Built by the Barndominium Co. The Barndo Co. is what they're called in 4 states, the Carolinas, Georgia, and in Tennessee. The BarndominiumCo.com and served by Chicken Cock Whiskey. You can find Chicken Cock by pulling up the Chicken Cock Challenge on the Chief Sports app. Type in your address, and the nearest store that has it available, which right now a lot of them do this holiday season, you can go pick it up before the in-laws get to town and drive you up the wall. J.C. Sherbert, Phil Mullinax, and myself, JB, here until 2 o'clock today. We'll be joined in about an hour and a half by Brad Crawford with 24/7 Sports. Brad, of course, is in the thick of it when it comes to the transfer portal and beyond. Lots to get to on that front, right? A lot has changed in 24 hours. We told you it would. It has. And then following Brad today, we'll be speaking with Derek Scott, the voice of Gamecock basketball. Carolina trying to finish the month of December in a flourish. 12-1 would be the record if they can get it done in the non-con. And then they'd be hosting the Mississippi State Bulldogs on Saturday, January the 6th, to open the SEC season. Boy, have a lot on the line, no doubt about that. But welcome aboard. We are 1 week away from our final show of the year. We'll take a break and we'll come back in January. So I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to go play golf tomorrow, celebrate my birthday a couple of days late. And so let me get this straight here. If I'm not here tomorrow, then I'm not working another Friday in 2023. Oh, this is wonderful. Amazing.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay.
Yeah, way to go. So
I'm out.
Somehow you've gotten all those off. Congratulations.
Well, let's see. So next Friday, we won't be on the air. That'll be the 20. What day will that be? The 22nd. The following Friday, you'll be doing rehearsal for your wedding.
Yeah, no way I'm doing it from Palm Beach. I'm out. I can't. There's no way. If we had a bowl game, maybe
we're off the whole week. Yeah.
If we had a bowl game, maybe you come and do a bowl special or something. But man, that's going to be a nice break because it's old man winter has invaded Chicagoland, so it's freezing. And I'll be very happy to get warmer temperatures. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I can only imagine what it will feel like to y'all to touch down in South Florida. I want to mention this too, right off the top. 40% at GamecockTraditions.com. It's online only. Online only. You hear me? Online only. 40% off of all apparel, everything. 40% off but the offer ends tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. And the deadline for standard shipping is Saturday, December 16th. So if you need to get something ordered and get it here before Christmas, GamecockTraditions.com, 40% off all apparel, but that ends tomorrow night. And you'll get it here before Christmas, online only. All right, JC, it has been a hell of a week for South Carolina in the transfer portal. Yesterday they picked up some more, again, as Preston and Langston will tell you from time to time, butt and gut. Who's the latest commitment, and what are we watching today?
DeAndre Jules was the commitment yesterday from Pitt. I think you guys know I'm really high on the guy. I think he's kind of a grown man, bigger kid. Some people are going to make a big deal out of his stats, but I would encourage everybody that D linemen sometimes, especially on the interior, they don't have the best stats. You know, they don't. That's not a measure of their production. A lot of times, the measure of their production is their ability to eat blocks and keep them off the linebackers and be disruptive. And there's no stat for disruption, right? So I like him. I think that when you look at, you throw him in there, and you got Jerome Simmons coming in, which you can't really, because he's a later JUCO guy. You can't really sit there and pencil him in the 2 deep yet. He'll have to go earn it. But this is kind of a ready-made guy to go in and compete with your Boogie Huntleys and your Tonka Hemingways and your TJ Sanders of the world. And really, I think it's a nice solidification piece. Tank Booker should have been that guy last year, but they came up short in the portal and with NIL with him. He went to Arkansas. Amazingly, he transferred again. He left Arkansas the other day, back in the portal. So Arkansas rented him for a year. And Krager mentions Nick Barrett. Nick was hurt all year, just like JT Gear was hurt all year. So those guys getting healthy will help that room across the defensive line as well. And you need depth there. You probably, frankly, need more than 3. I mean, it's ideal you have 5 or 6. You can roll throughout the game. That's what Brad Lawing used to do. And needless to say, Brad Lawing didn't really have a ton of depth. He manufactured depth when he was here because he trained up guys like Aldrick Fordham that could go in and give you 3 or 4 snaps in a situation, or a Byron McKnight at end that could go in and give you some snaps, guys like that. Because if you notice on offense, they don't substitute the offensive line a lot because it's all about cohesiveness. So in the fourth quarter, if you're fresher on the D line and the O-line's been out there the whole time, obviously, especially in the South where 70% of the games are in warm weather, you're going to have an advantage in the fourth quarter. So the hope is that this guy, ends up being a big part of the rotation next season. And like I said, I like him. I love him a lot. I think Coach Narduzzi had a bad year. I still think he's one of the best talent evaluators and talent developers in the game as the head coach there and their D-line coach. I kids from Pitt, I'm down with that. Plus, he went to high school in Maryland, which is where a lot of South Carolina's roster is coming from right now, the Maryland, D.C. area. So, as far as my quirky geography lessons I always like to give with recruiting, it fits that for me too. So I personally, in my opinion, was fired up about that one yesterday because I thought, that guy makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think one of the things that'll be interesting to watch as we get into spring ball is what are they going to do with the defense? Are they planning on just trying to get the dudes to go back to more of a 4-down style of defense and play that here, or are they more so wanting to stick with a 3-3-5 but just have a ton of depth at those 3 positions, basically? JC, I don't think we really know. My guess would be, okay, all right, let's back this train up a little bit. First and foremost, they're not eliminating any of it. They'll always be able to do both of those things. But I'm interested to see what more their standard style of defense will be. Clearly, the 3-3-5 was pretty effective late in the year, and that might be something that they're aiming to do, but they're definitely adding a ton of depth in the middle of the defense up front. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like.
It's interesting. I think you probably see both, but when you're talking about doing a 3-3-5, and Drew Tuizama moved inside the tackle, so he's going to be in that mix too next year, and he's got the same thing. I keep getting asked about Nick Emenwari and DQ Smith because I guess they didn't have the Garnet Trust signed tweet or whatever. I'll tell you this right now. I kind of like what they're doing with the sign deal, but that really doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. Nick's coming back until you hear otherwise, and so is DQ. DQ, there's never really been a question about DQ, but just kind of knowing what I know about Nick, I don't think there's any war concern there at this point. I can't completely close the door on him because he's a freaky 6'4" receiver. 6'4" safety that a lot of people know about. So you never know. Things sometimes pop up out of nowhere, but I don't know. That's the deal there. Back to the subject though. It's and they're not taking any more linebackers, by the way. So they got their linebackers. The 3-man first. So think about who you have next year. Okay, so you got those three that actually started in the 3-man front. So then you got a kind of a nose tackle guy in Simmons that you can use to get you some beef in the middle. At edge, is it going to be Drew Tuizama? Desmond Umeazulu. Is that going to be your guy? You need to get him ready. He's talented. He's ready. The second year, it's go time. Is it Bam Martin Scott from that other linebacker spot? Do you stand Desmond up? And then I think the answer to Dylan Stewart is you probably do stand him up. I could see a situation if they do go more 3-man, JB, where Bam Martin Scott's the starter there at that outside spot, but Dylan Stewart is actually backing him up as a freshman stand-up linebacker type. Mm-hmm. So that there is some personnel to kind of work it out there. I don't think they have a bunch of big 265-pound, 270-pound ends to run a 4-3 the whole time traditionally running around. So they may have to mix it up. Now, does that mean those guys aren't down with their hand down sometimes? No, you can do it. But I think, just kind of playing around in my head with where does Dylan Stewart fit, because all the portal talk's fine, but you do have one of the best, probably the most college-ready defensive linemen in the last couple of years coming to your school. So, and he's going to play. It's just a matter of where. And I kind of like, given the emergence of Martin Scott and kind of that role that Bam had down the stretch, I think Dylan would maybe fit there as a true freshman. Just because in his high school, they stood him up a lot, moved him all over the place. So he's used to it. So going to be interesting. I got a text from a friend of mine right before we went on. It's like, boy, if the defense isn't good next year, it's definitely coaching.
There's some talent.
I mean,
there's no doubt. I thought there was enough talent this year to be better than they were. I said that for months, and people mocked me like I'm some moron, but no. I was right. They had plenty of talent on that side of the ball to be better than they were, and they weren't. They needed to make some sort of adjustment. I thought that was coaching. I thought that was an issue. I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. I don't mean that. But clearly, when they made the adjustments to put their talent on the field in ways that would allow them to be more successful, it worked, right? It worked. Yeah. So, I mean, we sat there and watched it for 2 months, and we felt like things weren't being adjusted to to utilize what they had, their skill sets. And JC, man.
I'll be honest. I didn't think. I mean, it's not like we both sat here and said go to a 3-man front. I mean, I don't want to sit here and claim that.
No,
that was the answer. I just thought
I didn't know the answer. I just knew they had enough talent to be better than they were.
And we ended up being right, because once they figured out how to stop putting their players in bad positions, i.e., unfavorable one-on-one matchups, and getting a little more pass rushing oomph on the field, and things like that. I mean, it affected that entire side of the ball. That alignment ended up ended up being very effective.
Yeah.
From A&M was a good start with it, and I know Jacksonville State, they struggled, but that's a special prep, and sometimes you're going to struggle with that. Vanderbilt shut them down. I mean, Vandy said that Vandy was not a good football team, but the Gamecocks really held them to like lower than their standard on offense. Held Kentucky to 2 touchdowns and out of the end zone than Clemson. So it was a good finish for the defense. And, I think it was shown kind of like the offense the previous year. We're all sitting around going, this offense isn't that bad, talent-wise, and once some adjustments were made. Now, Clayton White figured it out for himself. Mark Satterfield was never going to figure it out. But I think we saw those last few games that, hey, this defense has some players, and everybody's back. So, except Marcellus Dial, you got 3 freshman All-American safeties sitting back there. You got O'Donnell Fortune's back. Judge Collier's back and played a lot as a sophomore. Vakari Swain is a player that will probably step in and play a lot at corner next year. Your linebackers, Stone's back. Bam Martin Scott's back. Mo Kaba, I think, will be back. But just wait and see on Mo. I mean, I wouldn't put any kind of like pressure on that guy, right? Debo Williams is back, your heart and soul. Pup Howard is back. I mean, you got some guys. I mean, it's been, JB was right. It's not because they don't have players.
They've got players.
Utilizing the personnel you have in the right way. I mean, we saw an evolution there, which was good. I mean, even though it took a while to get it going, but you schemed it up for the individual talents of the players on the field, and we saw benefits from that.
That's exactly right. And that is exactly right. So now you're talking about 2 big-time defensive tackles that are going to be joining the mix, an experienced linebacking core, and a bunch of All-Americans in the secondary. I agree. This defense should be drastically improved, young talent on the edges, and we haven't even gotten to the schedule release. So that's coming up here in just a little bit. The SEC, everybody has to go through the gauntlet. Nobody escaped it. Nobody. Everybody's got to stretch. You can look at South Carolina. You can look at the end of the Florida season. Oh, my gosh. I mean, everybody's got to stretch. But luckily, the Gamecocks at least get 4 quarters to try to work the kinks out this year instead of being thrown right into the fire. So let's step aside. We'll get to that. And also we'll get to a couple of visits that are happening today on both lines of scrimmages. And how about Juice Wells? I received a phone call last night with all sorts of information, some of it that can be spilled, some of it can't. But let's say that JC and Tony are spot on. It is fluid, and it is not over for him to return to Gamecock football. So hang tight. Gamecock Traditions, 40% off online only. GamecockTraditions.com. If you've got our app in your phone, you can go right to it and pull it right up in there. Or just go to their website, GamecockTraditions.com. Shipping deadline, standard shipping is Saturday, but that deal ends tomorrow night at 11:59. GamecockTraditions.com. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, it's JB, and as we all know, it's football season. My favorite place to shop for myself and the family is Gamecock Traditions in Lexington. They have the widest selection of Gamecocks attire, plus all the cool accessories for tailgating, cooking, kids, shoes, hats, and so much more. Most importantly for me, you can order online at GamecockTraditions.com, and it's shipped timely to your door. I've been shopping here for years, and I hope you will too. Order online right now on the Chief Sports app. Go Gamecocks.
Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style in seconds. They're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
South Carolinians, this message is for you, as well as for people in Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. If you think you may need work done to your roof or a new roof altogether, there's one simple name to remember: Elite Roofing and Restoration. South Carolina native Jeremy Johnson has been helping people in the South make sure they have the very best people checking on and building new roofs for over 25 years. Fully licensed, bonded, and insured, they provide the best service possible. Call or email today, 678-781-1998. That's 678-781-1998, or you can go to EliteRoofingGA.com. Schedule a no-hassle, free inspection today. Wind damage, hail damage, or just wear and tear. Don't settle for second best. Let Jeremy Johnson and Elite Roofing and Restoration take care of it all for you today.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go.
Take a look in the 5 and 10,
Listening once again,
with candy canes and silver lanes aglow.
it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store.
But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door.
It is 11:23. Welcome back. Merry Christmas, everybody. It is right around the corner. We are 10 days until Santa hops in the sleigh and starts taking a little cruise around the globe. Man, cannot wait. I love Santa Claus. So I'm the kid who's still here at 38 years old. Phil doesn't get to bed on time, and I staring through the window and antsy on. Yeah, that's totally it. So
Milk and cookies, the whole nine. Yeah, you
big
get
time. Yeah. I'm a big milk and cookies guy. Well, generally year round, but especially on Christmas Eve. There's no doubt. So 11 days from Christmas. Merry Christmas to all you and all of your families. Can't wait. To kind of balance things out here a little bit, I do want to slide into what we had revealed last night. We'll come back to recruiting and Juice Wells and things like that, but we got Brad Crawford coming up in an hour, so we want to make sure we get all of this as balanced as we can. I guess maybe I didn't realize, guys, what an opening weekend next year in the SEC. Not for the Gamecocks necessarily. You'd like to think they're going to take care of Old Dominion at home, but Miami is at Florida on August the 31st, that Saturday. You got Georgia and Clemson in Atlanta. You've got Notre Dame at A&M. We mentioned that yesterday. You got Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. Ooh, man, come on, Vandy. And then that Sunday, September the 3rd, you've got LSU and Southern Cal in Vegas, and we mentioned that as well. I just didn't put it together that all of those games were being played on the opening weekend. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was kind of lackluster. It's been lackluster, the opening weekend, lackluster the last couple of years. But, I mean, to the benefit of South Carolina and North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clemson and Duke. But this year, it's big time stuff.
Yeah, do you think they're going to do a week 0 across football of any account for BS teams.
I don't think
with
so
14
next year.
weeks. I don't think so either. I mean, you got
Yeah.
a 14-week schedule here with 2 buys. Yeah,
You don't need that. You
Nah.
don't need to do that. I don't believe. But I mean, it's, hats off to the SEC for week 2 with the same thing, guys. I mean, Gamecocks get that road test at Kentucky. Well, they're going to be venomous when they get there, having now been defeated by Carolina twice in a row. And that's a challenge. That is, boy, Carolina needs that one. Great goodness. But you've also got Texas at Michigan that weekend. I didn't realize that was being played till last night. You got Tennessee and NC State up there in Charlotte. Mississippi State is out in the desert at Arizona State. You got Cal at Auburn, and you got Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Pretty interesting little matchup there. Really interesting matchup, as a matter of fact. What do you think about that? You got that. I mean, week 3, Bama's at Wisconsin. I mean, like there are some tremendous non-conference games. Of course, the Gamecocks will allow LSU to walk right into Williams-Brice in week 3. So, you get Old Dominion, but then you got to go to Lexington, and then you've got LSU. It heats up quick.
It does. I like the Old Dominion being the opener, though, because you always want to win your first one, and it's at home. And probably my guess is, with all the other great games, it'll be that nighttime ESPN Plus kickoff like Georgia State was, and kind of like Eastern Illinois was. Lexington's kind of interesting because, we sat here all year when Kentucky started 5-0, and we're like, ain't played nobody. Well, Kentucky opens with a cupcake. And actually, they don't. They open with Southern Miss next year, which is not a cupcake, but a winnable game. But then the Gamecocks and Georgia roll into town back-to-back.
Right.
Weeks 2 and 3. So there's no opportunity for Kentucky to get off to that cushy 3-0 start like the Big Ten schools do next season. So it's just interesting. This schedule is interesting. I continue with the theory that the SEC, rolled around a South Carolina schedule and talked about it before they put everything together and discussed, well, who hadn't they played in a while and where? Well, they hadn't been to Tuscaloosa since 2009. Ole Miss hadn't been to Columbia since 2009. And LSU hadn't been to Columbia since 2008. So they put those in. All right, well, who gets a trophy? What trophy games they have? Well, they have A&M and Missouri. And they're like, okay, well, my God, that's Murderers Row. Give them Vandy and Kentucky, since they're going to be playing Kentucky regardless, and call it a day. I swear to God, it's like, hey, all right, trophies, and who hadn't they played? And yeah, those guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was cutting up some clips for our YouTube Shorts page and stuff today, and went back through Clonier's interview yesterday, and he literally said, I hope they don't do something like put Ole Miss and Alabama and Oklahoma back to back to back. And that's exactly what they did.
Think maybe you had a tip on that?
I don't know, man. It was just kind of funny. So, but you look at it, the one thing about LSU, they're not going to have Jaden Daniels, so that's good. And I think they'll be battle tested somewhat because they play out in Vegas, but that'll be a road environment for them at Williams-Brice. Ole Miss has been really good the last few years, but it's still a program I think South Carolina always should match up with, especially at home.
Boy, they scare me in 2024, man. Everything that they're returning on offense, gracious. They might be the best offense in the league next year.
Carolina should be good on defense next year. We just, so. But if it was in Oxford, I'd be like, oh, God. But it's in Columbia. Gamecocks got a home field advantage. And, you don't know what A&M's really going to be under Elko. I think in time they're going to be really, really good. But they also have to come to Columbia. And they've lost some roster pieces. Kentucky, I'm back on the train that Carolina should beat Kentucky every year. Since they've done it too, it's time to keep that going. Right. And then I don't, unless Vanderbilt could very well go, since they have NIL money now, according to reports, they may very well go and scour the FCS level and put together an All-American team and be pretty damn good. Or they may be terrible. So you don't know. And you don't play them until later. Missouri does have some returning players that are good. But at some point, Carolina's got to break that streak, right? especially it's the trophy game. The SEC put it on the schedule for a reason. So, and it's in Columbia later in the year where we'll know more about both of those teams. So it looks daunting based on who was good this year, and then anytime you have Alabama and LSU on your schedule, it's difficult. I mean, it's going to be hard. They're so good. You know, those teams it's hard to match up with them on lines of scrimmage.
Right.
But other than that, you know,
but I mean, to the rest of the SEC too. I mean, when you add Oklahoma and Texas, you get some good things here. First of all, you've got signature games every week. Like, there's never a week where it's ho hum. And Phil's got the actual schedule for the Gamecocks up on the screen now, as you can kind of see what it looks like. Double buys, 7 home games, and with the exception of the back-to-back trips to T-Town and Norman, it is very manageable and balanced, to be honest with you. But the SEC in itself, I mean, like, if you I circled all those non-con games in the first couple of weeks, but when you get into league play, I mean, South Carolina at Kentucky is the quote-unquote signature SEC game in week 2 because it's the only SEC game in week 2. So, you know, that's probably going to be whatever it might be whatever if they do it that way, ABC, if they're going to do it how CBS does, is that going to be their signature primetime game because it's a conference game? Or will that be Texas at Michigan? But Texas is at Michigan, so Michigan's going to have the TV rights to that. So that's probably going to be on Fox. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out how a lot of this is going to work. And then you get into week 3, and then you've got signature. You've got another signature game. You've got potentially LSU, believe it or not, at South Carolina if the Gamecocks can beat Kentucky. If not, you've got A&M at Florida. You've got Georgia at Kentucky, and then from there, it's kind of that pick your poison type schedule. I mean, think about this for a second. Things we've never seen before. So Tennessee at Oklahoma in week 4. We all know what it's going to be in week 5, Georgia at Alabama. Oh, wait, hey, by the way, did you realize that Oklahoma's at Auburn that week? Yeah, but Georgia's at Alabama, right? So the Yellowhammer State on Saturday, September the 28th is going to be freaking nuts. You got all these folks coming from Oklahoma to the plains of Auburn. There will be no hotels anywhere within a 200-mile radius. And then you've got the dog fans barking in T-Town. And so that's going to be crazy. And then the following week, you know, here you go again. You got Auburn at Georgia. Well, generally, there's no doubt, right? Like Auburn, it's Auburn at Georgia. That is a signature game. We'll see what what they look like. And then the week after that, you got, for the first time ever in the SEC, Texas at Oklahoma. Oh, did you not realize that Florida plays Tennessee that week? I mean, think about this. That's Florida and Tennessee's week, JC. Phil, that is Florida and Tennessee's week. But the Red River Shootout's also that week. So not anymore. I mean, you got Ole Miss at LSU that week down on the Bayou. You know, the following week, Alabama, they're at Tennessee. Alabama's at Tennessee. That's the signature game, right? Well, I mean, hey, look. Gamecocks hit the road for Oklahoma that week. You've got all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, you've got it's Alabama at Tennessee. That's the third Saturday in October. Yeah, right. That's their weekend, isn't it? Guess who else plays? Georgia at Texas.
Yeah, I was just looking at
on the same day.
Texas,
I mean, it is crazy. Like, just I was thinking about this last night. Every single week, you've got something that is just makes this league stand out above all else everywhere. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to watch it. Week 11, the same thing. Alabama at LSU. You'd think that's going to be the signature, but what about Oklahoma at Missouri? Is Missouri going to be good again? Georgia's at Ole Miss next year. Are they both going to be as good as they were? I mean, it's crazy to think that this schedule every week could have 2, 3, 4, 5 games that you just cannot wait to watch.
Yeah, that's when you add Texas and OU into the mix. It's going to be interesting because you kind of look back through history and, you know, who has come into the SEC. There's been 4 teams: Carolina, Arkansas, A&M, and Missouri. And if you look at the totality of like what those teams did, the bottom did not fall out on Carolina until like they were 6-7 years in. The bottom has not fallen out on Missouri at all. In fact, they've gotten better as a program. A&M's still been the same that they were in the Big 12. And Arkansas, by their third year in the league under Danny Ford, won the SEC West. So there's a track record there of schools coming in that maybe don't have the history of Texas and OU and not struggling, like people thought. That said, these are the big dogs, right, from the Big 12. These are the guys that show up in a lot of games. They can just roll it out and win, right? They can go beat Iowa State if they try just a little bit. They can go beat Kansas if they try just a little bit. They can beat Baylor. And then sometimes they'll take an unexpected L or 5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true.
And but because they're such big name brands, the SEC programs from the top to the bottom, they're all looking forward to those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're going to get everybody's best shot from this league every week, just like they did in the Big 12, except these teams in the middle of, and even toward the bottom middle of the SEC are exponentially better than the bottom third of the Big 12.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's no, I mean, it has enhanced everything. Rivalry weekend is always headlined by Auburn and Alabama, right? You got Florida, so we know who it is. Florida State, Georgia Tech, Georgia, Gamecocks, and the Tigers. The Egg Bowl is played on Thursday. Anybody see rivalry weekend coming up in 2024? Texas at Texas A&M, and Oklahoma at LSU on the same day. I mean, what in the world is going? How do you get all these games to where everybody can watch? I mean, it really you're going to have no divisions, and every single week something is going to happen. Every week in the SEC. Here's my prediction next year. I have no predictions. That's what it is. Every week something wacky is going to happen.
Everybody finishes 7-5.
I mean, it honestly like it could, and they'd still have half of the 12 teams in the playoff. Because, I mean, it's just going to be ludicrous what's going on here. And that's one of the things, like, is when I saw the schedule last night, when I was watching it unfold, one of the first things that I thought about, guys, and I mentioned it just a little while ago, is everybody has a gauntlet. Like, nobody escaped this. You cannot responsibly look at the 2024 SEC schedule in a whole and have one opinion that says, well, this team – yeah, they got out of it easy. Nobody did. Nobody did. I mean, Georgia from September 28th to October the 19th, they have to play in Tuscaloosa and they have to play in Austin, Texas. I mean,
it hits a bit different, like when you're looking at it, right? The addition of Oklahoma and Texas, because we've all been conceptualizing it, and we know, okay, we're going to end up playing Oklahoma, but then when you're looking at this thing and you're like, wow, man, some of these matchups, it's like, I mean, it's probably a safe wager to say there is not an SEC team that comes out without a loss.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think you're exactly right. And like that was one of the, when I looked at the schedule, it initially looks very fair. It always plays itself out every year, of course, right? But it looks very fair. And when you get it very fair like that, teams are going to lose games. They're just going to lose. That's just what's going to happen. They're going to lose. When your league is really good and really deep and the schedule is really fair, teams are going to get beat. And so, I think you're on it, Phil. I think, every single team has a gauntlet that they're going to have to go through, and I don't think that any of them are going to be able to get out of it. And then at the end of the year, we'll kind of see where it stands. But, I mean, the seventh best team in the league next year might be 9-3 and should be in the playoff. I mean, that could be Alabama. Like, that could be Georgia at 9-3. And should be in the playoff, but they just happened to get beat at Texas and lost a heartbreaker on the road in Tuscaloosa, and it's crazy.
As people talk about going to 9 games, and we're sitting here looking at all this 8-game schedule and going, "My God!" And people are talking about wanting to go to 9.
Well, let me tell you, this is my opinion. This is my opinion on this. how many coaches in a minute? Actually, I say coaches, but really, like it's like guys like Charles Waddell, like at South Carolina, Charles Waddell, and everybody's got one of these guys everywhere who makes a schedule, right? Their job is to create the schedules. How many of these guys woke up this morning, looked at their future schedules, and said, yeah, yep. Let's see here. We've got Notre Dame, and yeah, we're going to have to find a way to get out of that because this crap is insane. You know what I mean? Like, I got a feeling that now that it's being seen on paper, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, Phil? Like, you're seeing it on paper for the first time, and you're looking down the road at 2027 going, yeah, right. Yeah, let's see. We've got Georgia Tech and we've got Michigan both on the schedule that year. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy ourselves out of these, and we're going to play Furman and the School of the Deaf, Dumb, and the Blind, because we're not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, no way. No
You're
way.
going to have so many forward-thinking schedulers at this point. It was like, you know what this needs? An HBCU.
Yeah. You know, I'm
You're going to get the most woke scheduling ever at this point, because they're like, no.
HBCU and Ivy League. Come on.
Yeah,
down,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what he
When's
was
the last
thinking.
time the Crimson played at Williams-Brice?
Yeah, you know.
Coming in 2028.
Somebody call North Greenville and get their asses down here for the weekend. Yeah.
I'd sign a 10-year deal with Charleston Southern tomorrow.
Yeah. There's no doubt. Well,
play them 9 times at Williams-Brice and play them once at Johnson Haygood. They'll bring in temporary bleachers.
Well, here, I'll bring this a little bit closer to home. I mean, we're a long ways away from this, but I could tell you right now, in 2033, the Gamecocks ain't going to Boone, North Carolina to play App State. They're already working on getting out of that deal.
I think that one was supposed to happen this year, JB.
Oh, they've kicked it, and they've kicked it. I think they're trying to kick it so far down the road that App State goes to hell with it. We'll back out of the deal.
Unfortunately, I do think it was Ray that did it, but Eric Hyman and Charles Waddell, when they were heading it up with Hyman, I don't know what Hyman's issue was. Maybe it was because you do get paid for going on the road, but man, they would schedule some dumb games like at UCF. In 2013, why are you going to UCF?
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess at that point maybe they thought, because they scheduled these things like 7, 8, I mean even sometimes decades in advance. So, but Hyman and those guys schedule it. They go to UCF. I guess they thought that Carolina's not good enough to ever get to the Citrus Bowl, so we'll give the fans a chance to go to Orlando. The East Carolina road game that Beamer had to play his first year. That had gotten kicked down the road for about a decade because Skip Holtz was the coach at East Carolina when they signed that deal. They played once in Charlotte and however many other times. And then this App State thing's been on the way for a while. And I was just curious as to how in the world that stadium up there, the Rock, I guess what they call it or whatever, in Boone, how are you going to accommodate – with South Carolina when the visiting crowd probably would be 66% of your total capacity of 28,000.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to fit? Gamecocks haven't played in a stadium that small in a long. I mean, I think you'd have to probably go back to like 87 when they played at Wake at Groves Stadium in Winston-Salem. It's about 30,000. And I remember specifically Bob Fulton and Tommy Suggs on the radio call that day that the Gamecocks had them outnumbered big time. I mean, there was just a sea of garnet and black in Winston-Salem that day.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and if we still have this show in 10 years, and we probably will still have the show in 10 years. Hopefully JC and Phil and I are running things from somewhere on an island. But if we do, I'm going to make the call now that game actually will not be that game that they're supposed to be playing that day in Boone. It'll be played in Williams-Brice Stadium against a team named John C. Smith College or something. It won't be App State and Boone in 2033.
The fledgling USC Upstate Spartans will come to
Yeah,
town.
right. Yeah, that's
It's like
right.
Newberry's coming to town. You know what I mean? Like,
Limestone.
Oh.
Scheduled limestone.
Yeah.
Limestone.
Sonder, not this island, man. Yeah, like, come on, Sonder. Bluer Waters, my man. Bluer Waters. That's, Georgia's already looking down the road going, let's see.
Oh, Georgia's
yeah.
scheduled like a freak show. Man.
Yeah. Oh, we got to go to Ohio State. Yeah, we're not going to make that trip. We'll be staying right here. Let's see. Oh, at Louisville in 2026? Nah.
9? No. For as much hell as Carolina's admin catches, South Carolina, compared to some of these schools, scheduled very reasonably. I think Alabama in 2028 opened back-to-back with Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Alabama is Nick Saban has scheduled everybody under the sun. I know we got to go to break here, but next year in 24 they go to. Well, I already mentioned this. They go to Wisconsin. In 25 they go to Florida State, and then they host Wisconsin. In 26 they go to West Virginia, and they host Florida State. In 27 they go to Ohio State and host West Virginia. In 28 they go to Oklahoma State and host Ohio State. In 29 they go to Notre Dame and host Oklahoma State. In 30, they go to Georgia Tech and host Notre Dame. I mean, do I need to keep going here?
Yeah, they fixed
in 2032, JC, they go to Minnesota. You're Alabama. Tell Minnesota to kick rocks. Like, why do you need that game in 2032? You don't. But they're not going to play it because somebody's looking at this going,
They've already adjusted, too, because that Oklahoma State Notre Dame back-to-back, that originally was Ohio State, but it looks like they've kind of broken it up. Georgia has one year where they had Florida State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech in the non-conference.
Yeah, they fixed that.
They did. Georgia and Bama just were like, "Well, just hey, hello, this is the University of Georgia. Yes, we're scheduling games. When would you like to play?" But then there's other schools, man. Like we complain around here. Carolina's kind of right in the middle of all this. Like Ole Miss is playing at Charlotte.
Yes,
probably just right at the time Biff Poggi buys enough players NIL money wise to get them good. I think Vandy goes to Georgia State. I think and there's somebody else that goes to Georgia State too. It may be Ole Miss going to Georgia State as well. Missouri next year has a road game at UMass.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UMass, brother.
Why?
I don't know. They schedule funny. I mean, they've got road games at San Diego State. They go to Northern Illinois later on. That they are not afraid to go group of 5 road tripping.
Well,
Northern Illinois would probably be the worst road trip you could possibly make. It's in basically a suburb of Chicago.
It's like somebody's trying to fill in a map of states they've been to.
Yeah, it's like you're going to go. They're going to get to go roll at the Dave and Buster's, pregame meal at Dave and Buster's. Maybe a little Fogo de Chao if they win. I mean, I'm like, what? There's no. I mean, because like I see, like Ole Miss went to Tulane this year. I see that. There's a lot of Ole Miss alums in New Orleans, especially one famous one, Archie Manning. And they recruit New Orleans, and that's the mouth of the mighty Mississippi River, by God. So that is a holy city for many in that state. So if you got to go play Tulane every once in a while, you got to go play Tulane every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I get that. I get Ole Miss going to Memphis. It's right there. I totally understand those things. I don't understand Missouri going to UMass or Northern Illinois. Even out west, like Vandy went to UNLV. I think Mississippi State's going to UNLV at some point. San Diego State is another Missouri road trip. I don't mind those exotic ones. Mississippi State's going to Pullman, Washington to play the Cougs. Mm-hmm. Those kind of West Coast ones can be fun for your fans. But why would you go to UMass? That's like,
Well, I would think that would be a Kentucky move. Like Kentucky, like we're sitting here talking about this 24 schedule and how difficult it is for everybody. And Kentucky's going, you see, you've been making fun of us for all these years. That's why we scheduled Toledo and Tennessee Tech and Eastern Michigan next year. Well, why don't you go to Toledo? Oh, that's an idea. Then that'd be a road game. That'd be a challenge for us Wildcat fans. They.
Oh,
No. But you got to
have
come
something
there.
to-
Actually,
JB.
if you were to
Nope.
pick out one schedule next year, I would say of the 16, and say they've got potentially the lightest schedule in the league, it's probably Kentucky. Because they don't really have a true back-to-back gauntlet like every other team in the SEC does.
No, they got two, Carolina and Georgia, but that's it.
Yeah, but they're both at home. Like
Yeah.
they don't have to come. Yeah, right. Like nobody else has anything like that. Like everybody else that has the gauntlet has to at least that has a gauntlet at least has to travel at some point in time.
Yeah, they're at Ole Miss, but then they're off, and they have Vandy, but then they're at Florida, but then Auburn comes down at Tennessee. That's probably the closest thing to it is at Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee. Yep. But no, you're right. Then another off date, then the Great Murray State Racers come in.
Oh, that's true.
Then they have at Texas.
Yeah.
At the end.
Go to the Swamp and go to Knoxville. Yeah, that's true.
I think Texas is not. It's not a gauntlet either. I mean, a respect for scheduled Colorado State in your opener and Michigan on the road at UTSA. Those are all good teams. They don't even. Texas doesn't open the SEC play till the 4th week of September against Mississippi State.
Yeah, the 5th week of the season.
5th week of the season, and then they play Oklahoma. Then they play Georgia, but then at Vandy. Then they're off. Then Florida comes to town. Who knows what shape the Gators will be in by then? Then they're at Arkansas. That's tricky in November. The Kentucky and at A&M. So yeah, the Longhorns. They're not necessarily getting the big old challenge that first years.
It's that Oklahoma Georgia back to back is what it is for them.
Yeah,
it's Oklahoma Georgia back to back.
Yeah, it's 2 huge games.
I mean, everybody like Vanderbilt starting in week 1 and finishing in week 14. That's their gauntlet. Let's just be honest. And then A&M kind of similar thing. You got in the middle of the year, you got LSU coming to town, and then you got to go to Columbia, come face the Gamecocks. And then at the end of the season, you've got Auburn and Texas. You mentioned with Texas that Oklahoma, Georgia is kind of there. Like that's for a team like Texas, a team that wants to get to the playoffs, that's going to be their back-to-back prove-it weeks. Tennessee's got Florida and Alabama in back-to-back weeks, and then it kind of splits itself up from there. So those are their two. We know about the Gamecocks, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma right there in the middle. I would say Kentucky and LSU at the beginning too, but and then same thing, with Oklahoma, you've got the Texas, you got Carolina coming to town, and then you've got to go to Oxford. But at the end of the year for them, that's it, man. Oklahoma finishes with Alabama at home and then in Baton Rouge. Whew.
They gave up Alabama.
And LSU, final 2 weeks of the year. I mean, you could do that. Well, I'm doing this with every single team. Like, how much time do we have? I mean, that's
hell of a lot different than having to play Baylor at the end of the
Nobody
year.
else. Yeah. The rest of the country cannot possibly look at their league schedule and say anything. I mean, Florida, if you haven't paid attention to the schedule, starting November the 2nd and ending on November the 30th, Billy Napier better hope he gets fired on the off week, October the 26th. I mean, they've got Miami in Gainesville, and then they've got Samford in Gainesville, and then they got A&M in Gainesville, and then they got to go to Starkville. They need to find a way to start 3-1. Then they got to beat Central Florida at 4-1. And then they got to go to Knoxville, and then they've got Kentucky coming down. They need to be 5-2 because here are the final 5. They've got Georgia and Jacksonville. Then they go to Austin the very next. There are no off weeks, boys and girls. These are 5 straight.
Jeez.
Georgia and Jacksonville. Then they go to Austin, Texas, and then they come back home to host LSU. And then they've got Ole Miss walking into town, and then they go to Tallahassee. Oh, my God.
Jeez. I mean, and you would have thought, as you know, politically, the University of Florida is supposed to be one of the more influential schools in the league, right? they're always talking about it. Florida's wanting this, that, and the other. In a year where they screwed up and scheduled 3 out-of-conference in-state Power Fives.
Right.
Which was mad respect for them doing it. And they probably didn't realize UCF was going to be in the Big 12. But UCF's in the Big 12. They're going to want to take Florida's head off. So is Miami. And then you got FSU on the road. And even Samford guys, y'all remember that. I'll remind everyone that the year in 2021 when Mullen got fired, the game after he got fired after they lost to Missouri, they played Samford on Sunbelt Saturday or SoCon Saturday and had the Samford had them down like 38-6.
Yeah.
And then they came back and beat them 54-52.
Yeah.
I mean, so even the Samford Bulldogs maybe, shed a little bit. But man, those first few games are hard enough. That's a tough September. That's a very tough October, although 2 of the 3 games are at the Swamp. And then it's like, oh, no, we're not finished. And, Georgia's neutral site, but then at Texas and then at Florida State and then LSU and Ole Miss both come into town. My gosh.
Well, there's a lot to. I mean, if Florida, nobody has a stretch like Florida does there. Nobody has that. That's that. But everybody has one. Nobody escapes it. Ole Miss has I'd say the purest drive or easiest drive to a 5-0 start next year. Their first real test is in Columbia against the Gamecocks, and then they've got to go to Baton Rouge the very next week. Matter of fact, I think they play the most games without an open date in the league to start the season. Yeah, they do. Their first 7 weeks they'll play. So,
I see that Wake Forest road game they've scheduled. See, they'll head to a terrible stadium.
Yeah.
They won't lose that game.
I bet Furman's on their schedule too. Great. I bet Derek Mason doesn't.
They won't lose that game.
I bet Middle Tennessee doesn't cross the 50 against those guys.
They won't lose that
Derek
game.
Mason's a terrible hire.
What?
For the Blue Raiders.
Odd hire.
Yeah. The full South Carolina schedule, of course, available on Gamecocks online. All right, back into the portal when we return. Brad Crawford is ahead. So is Derek Scott. Going to be a fun Thursday here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on 2 wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey Gamecock Nation, my name is Kyle, longtime listener of the show and avid golfer. I wanted to take my game to the next level, but let's face it, golf is a hard game to learn on your own. I heard the ad from McKellar Enterprises and reached out to the owner and former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor. In just 2 months of working with Meredith, I shot my lowest round ever and I've never felt more confident in my golf game. So if you're looking to take your game to the next level, go to McKellarEnterprises.org and book your lesson today with former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor. Go Gamecocks.
One door opens while another one closes. Dad, Please, can we please go today?
Not today, sweetie.
One heart's breaking while another one is mending. It's all in the ebb and flow. If I had to, I could go it alone, but because you've become my home. These windows could shatter to the ground. These walls could fall right down, because you've become my home.
We don't have to tell Mom that.
Because you've become my home.
Down here in the South, we don't always see eye to eye. While our taste in college football teams, or what sauce, if any, goes best on a rack of ribs, or what to mix with our Dixie vodka might be up for debate, we can all agree there's nothing better than a Southern tailgate. And like our favorite college teams, our ingredients come from small towns and big cities. They're grown in Southern soil, are crafted by Southern hands, and proudly represent the South in our backyard and beyond. So raise a glass of Dixie Southern Vodka to celebrate being made in America and raised in the South.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville and online at palmcasual.com. Gamecock owned and operated.
Michael Campbell arrived at South Carolina in 2003 after growing up in Virginia and was dubbed the Winchester Rifle by Gamecocks great Tommy Moody in the broadcast booth. He left in 2006 a legend, a career .315 hitter and 20th round draft pick of the San Diego Padres. Campbell was first all-time in games played, at bats and triples, second all-time in hits with 299, singles and total bases, third all-time in doubles, top 10 in runs scored and RBI, and he hit 31 home runs in his career for the Gamecocks. Now he's passing his knowledge to the next generation through his business, Soup's Swing Shop. If your son or daughter wants to improve their game, Soup's Swing Shop offers virtual lessons. Mike will connect with you, diagnose your swing, and create a special game plan to help improve it. Call him at 859-414-8240. Email soupsswingshop@gmail.com or find them on social media and on the Chief Sports app. Soup's Swing Shop. Play ball.
Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
America and barbecue is a great combination. Welcome back. The national anthem played every day at noon on Inside the Gamecocks. The show is very proudly presented by Billy G's Carolina Barbecue. CarolinaBarbecueSauce.com. Boys and girls, I mentioned it earlier. It better be. Santa's going to be delivering gifts in 10 days. 10 days. We can help him. For all of those that enjoy good rubs, I'm talking about seasoning, pervert, and sweet heat sauce and Carolina Gold barbecue sauce and things like that, this is the ticket to the holiday season. I promise you. We're switching it up at our house this year. We're doing ribs on Christmas Day.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding. We're doing ribs. Generally, we're pretty traditional, but we do shrimp and grits and things like that from time to time. We'll do that on Christmas Eve this year. We're doing ribs on Christmas Day. Well, look no further. There it is. Billy G's is going to have half the ribs with the sweet heat, the other half Carolina Gold. And, of course, it'll all be seasoned with the secret spice. So the code is ITG23. You get 10% off your order. CarolinaBarbecueSauce.com. And here's even better news. Maybe you don't like the sweet heat. That's okay. You're not going to offend anybody. I mean, you might offend Billy G, but don't tell him that to his face. He'll probably punch you in your mouth. If you don't like the sweet heat, you can get just the Carolina Bold mustard-based sauce. And if you don't like mustard-based sauce, which then something's clearly wrong with you, but that's okay. You can still order a package with only the sweet heat, and you still get the rub. I mean, they've made it so easy. CarolinaBarbecueSauce.com this holiday season. Put it in your stocking and make somebody's dream come true, other than, getting a big hug and a kiss from JC or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
hey, look, if you don't like the sweet heat, I don't know what the problem is. But even if you don't like sauce, the secret spice, the rub is unreal. I mean, you put it on anything.
Yeah, I love a good dry rub. That's definitely a good dry rub.
No doubt. There's no doubt about that. No doubt. All day long. Craig says, I'm not seeing 40% off apparel on Gamecock Tradition site. It is on the home page, Craig. It's on the home page. The discount will be taken when you get to when you get it in your cart. The discount comes off in the cart. All right. Welcome back. Deshaun Watson wants more info. Must be talking about the rub or the sweet heat or both.
Somebody mentioned rub.
the rub and tug.
Oh man, yeah, I hear you. Well done. All right, welcome back again. Brad Crawford ahead in 25 minutes, and Derek Scott ahead in less than an hour here on Inside the Gamecocks show. Big day again, JC, at the ballpark. Carolina is going to welcome a couple of transfers to campus who are visiting. I understand that one of them is now becoming a major target on the offensive line, and they have a defensive end in too from the ACC. Is that true?
Kennard from Georgia Tech, and what's the kid's name? Morris Malone, something like that. He kind of popped up on me last night. I think he would be a good offense. I'll put it this way. I think for South Carolina's needs and considering what happened this past year, he would be a good take at tackle if you can get him. I wouldn't. Monroe Mills. That's it. Thank you, Luca. I don't think I'd run to the mountaintops with bags of gold and give it to him. If you catch my drift. Kennard is a player that I think the coaching staff's a lot higher on than maybe I am personally, which is fine because I'll defer to them on that. They really like his game on pass rushing ability on third down, and I think they do need pass rushers. Dylan Stewart's going to be fine. I think JT Gear, when he gets healthy, will be fine in that department. But you need more than that. I mean, you got to have guys. And Brian Thomas is a good pass rusher. Don't get me wrong. So is Martin Scott. But you need, dudes, to rush the passer. And Kennard's that kind of guy. Georgia Tech wasn't that great on defense. Neither was Pitt, but individually they had some guys that could go play some ball. So that's the deal there. LT Overton is still in the mix. I reported that this morning. The kid from A&M, he's visiting Bama. Who knows what will happen there, but there's still a lot of communication there to the point where I wanted to rule him out, and I was told, no, just hang in there, that kind of thing. So that's good. But, hey, I think that it's still shaping up to be a good portal class. There'll be more folks in this weekend. And then we'll kind of have a better idea of exactly who they'll have. But it does look like if they can hit on some of these additional targets, they'll really help their roster.
Yeah, I think that I think right now it's hard to classify this portal haul as anything other than to this point a raving success. If you believe in rankings. And I would say that rankings, especially portal rankings, probably that they don't need to be the Bible, but they're certainly something that you can use to give yourself a good judge of what your program is doing in the portal. Carolina's 7th in the nation, and with 5 commitments right now, and they got a chance, JC, really to, over the next few days, if some of these things come true, to maybe be up there close to the top of this whole deal. And as you've said this for a couple of years, and we talked about it extensively, I know, last year, that the portal, the reason that I said if you believe in rankings and don't take it as the Bible, because it isn't. The portal is there to fill the gaps, right? To help you fill your needs. Like, so you're going to have a portal ranking, like you might have, like last year, Colorado, I think, was number 1, right? But that's because they had 7,000 players
that they took
in the portal. So, Carolina, the Gamecocks aren't going to do. They're going to bring in a hefty portal class, but they're not going to bring in 30 or 40 guys. So the whole point of the portal is, are you satisfying the needs of your football team? So that's why, you got to, that's fine. Like, the rankings do matter, but also, who are you signing? And going into this year, or going into this portal season, I think that if I'm incorrect here, you stop me, but the 3 positions of need based on what happened at the end of the year and who entered, who left, entered, whatever, the 3 main positions of need, the 2 clearest ones, which were defensive tackle and running back. Receiver quickly became a concern, and then I'd probably throw quarterback in there as well. They're going to have to sign a quarterback, JC, and then from there probably defensive end, maybe offensive tackle, things like that. Well, so to their credit, the 5 guys that they have, and Simmons is also considered, or he's a JUCO guy, but he's coming in this class. So you've got Jules, you've got your 2 running backs. They're going to take a 3rd running back, and they've got 2 wide receivers. So they're satisfying the needs up front. Like, it's not like they just took a commitment from a defensive back who's going to fill into the 2nd or 3rd string or something like that. Like, plug and play guys, they're adding them right now in the positions that they need to add them in. So far, so good.
Yeah, I saw someone mention corner. I don't know that I agree with that. I think I do think that if they found a great one, they would take him, obviously, because talking to Bill King earlier today on his show, he made the point, and he's kind of right, that it's hard to play corner nowadays. There's not a lot of great corners in college football these days because there's so many great receivers, there's so many great quarterbacks, so many different offensive schemes, that kind of thing. But they're not just going to waste a scholarship. I think, O'Donnell Fortune coming back helps the need there a little bit. The fact Judge Collier played a whole bunch last year was pretty good doing it helps. Vakari Swain, don't give up on him. Somebody wanted to move him in the chat box to receiver. Well, they're not going to do that because he may be the best corner next year. I would have moved him this year because you needed more oomph on offense. But I'd have probably moved him right back to corner if receiver was filling up like it is. So I think that I think it's one of those things that you just kind of look and see how it fills out and all that. LT Overton, obviously I mentioned him earlier. Gamecocks are still in it. I'm not confident, but I was told don't shut that down right just yet. So we'll see that. And I haven't heard anything, Quantrell, about the Florida State guys. I would doubt the running back would be a guy. I think they know who they want for the third running back. They love DJ Lundy. I mean, I don't know why the old staff never went on Lundy hard out of high school because he was probably going to come here. Florida State kind of got him late. But I'm not sure that I just don't know that they think they need a linebacker in this class from the portal. I think with everybody back and then you're bringing in Wendell Gregory, at that spot, I think they feel pretty good about that.
And Fred Johnson, don't forget about him. That's my guy. He's guy.
Yeah, I don't know how I forgot about him, but
Fred Johnson.
Yeah, they love. And look, I'll tell you, people ask me all the time about who are people trying to flip and stuff. Fred Johnson, let's just say he got a lot of suitors this fall, and they had to do a lot of work to try to get him.
Well, he's got a great name, Fred Johnson. That
is a badass linebacker's name. Right
I mean, his name is Fred Johnson. He'll knock you into next week. Like I'm a big fan of his already. He's going to have 150 tackles next season as a true freshman. Big fan.
Yep.
At least he's playing in the middle of the defense and he's not like a safety or something. That was one of the positives come out of this year is, our leading tackler was not in the secondary. It did come from the front seven.
Brick killed a guy.
Brick killed a guy.
Boy, let's get Fred on here. We got to give him a nickname. He's going to be Brick Johnson moving forward. Brick killed a guy. Brick Johnson. Now that's a linebacker name. That's the name of a linebacker. Brick Johnson. All right, whatever. It's 12-18. Let's go ahead and step aside because we do have Crawford at 12:35, which is kind of a tweener time for us with our breaks. So let's hit that. When we get back, we'll get to Juice Wells. Juice, of course, is in the transfer portal, but could he be just maybe transferring apartments in Columbia and staying in the Midlands? Maybe. There is some juice to that. So no pun intended. Hang tight. It's the Christmas season here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey, Gamecock fans, Mike Morgan here. During my time in Columbia, one of my favorite places to eat was Salsaritas. When I go back now for work or any other reason, it's still Salsaritas. Yeah, I'm like you. I love tacos. I love Tex-Mex. Where are you going to go to get them? Well, you've got two convenient Salsaritas locations, one in Lexington in the Target Center and one in West Columbia as well. Now, if you like tailgating, and who doesn't? Whether it's for a football game or anything else, they've got the catering hotline. Get yourself some Fiesta packs to take tailgating. Get yourself the Three Amigos bundles for tailgating. They make catering easy with a fresh, hot setup. And again, you just call the phone number 803-543-6297 to set it up. You can also look them up online, or you can even download the app. Salsaritas is just a cut above the rest. That's why they're serving Williams-Brice Stadium and the South Stands, also serving in the Colonial Life Arena. Again, that catering hotline number, make it easy for you and the folks out there. You don't need to settle for sandwiches every time. 803-543-6297. 803-543-6297.
Shop Charleston Fitness Equipment this holiday season. Major discounts on treadmills, rowers, ellipticos, and more. Proud partners of Carolina Rise, Inside the Gamecocks, and the Chiefs Sports Network. CharlestonFitnessEquipment.com. 843-388-0999. Charleston Fitness Equipment this holiday season.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let yourself be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
No question about that. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barn Co. and powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. You don't have to be in the Low Country to purchase one. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. If you're still scratching your head on what's the big gift, what's the big gift for your son or daughter or both, husband, wife, whatever, just take a look at these things. I'm telling you what, now you might be surprised. You might have thought I'd never spend that much money, whatever it is. You might think differently. I would venture a guess that many of you have. Actually, I know that you have. So electricbikescharleston.com. Electricbikescharleston.com, of course, the sister store of Charleston Fitness Equipment as well. And I'm a proud owner of the Hydro Rower, so I give that the as many votes as I can give it from an endorsement standpoint. I cannot thank the Wilkins family enough. And this holiday season, as you're eating too much and drinking too much and gallivanting around and doing all the things you shouldn't do, these suckers can get you back into shape. Electric bikes, rowers, whatever it is. Keep yourself healthy. From Electric Bikes Charleston, and Merry Christmas from Charleston Fitness Equipment. All right, Juice Wells, guys. So, JC, I got an interesting phone call last night. And, of course, never do I ever second guess or anything like that, anything that Tony Morrell reports or that you report. And that's not what I'm doing here. It actually confirmed it all. Found it very interesting that, in some scenarios, we probably can just be honest about it, right? Like, grass maybe looked a little greener. You've got a few key people involved in helping make decisions. I think that's fair to say, JC. And it looks like, maybe some of those things that initially were on the table are going to probably not be on the table moving forward for one reason or another. And the future of Juice Wells outside of Columbia, South Carolina seems like, not that it won't happen, because it absolutely 100%, that is very much a possibility. And if you ask me to choose today, I think that he probably won't be back. But there is a chance that he does return, and that could change at any minute. As his options kind of decrease and the things that matter for him and his future kind of gets a little bit of light shed on it. Is that a good way to say that? Where his the next year or so of college football for Juice Wells kind of is what it is, and there are only certain things that can satisfy those needs, and South Carolina is still in that basket. Does that make sense? Got your mic on?
Oh,
got your mic.
Yeah, JC, we cannot hear you.
Got your mic on, JC. Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Goal is no. We had this big long message on YouTube. Fix your mic. And my mic's been fixed, folks. Yesterday was internet related. And I think I know what it was because one of the kids was home and they're gamers. And the oldest one has this big, gigantic gaming computer that downloads all this stuff during the day. I mean, this thing's huge. It's like, what's the name of the computer from 2001? Sam or whatever the hell it is. I mean, this thing scares me. It's alive. And I think he was downloaded something yesterday. And I also remember during that ending when JB's trying to drag the recruiting info out of me because Nat was microwaving something. And so that always screws it up. And I'm like, oh, man. So the mic's fixed, but I just had the mute button on. My bad. So anyway, yeah, I think that here's the thing. There's two ways to look. There's the football aspect of it, and there's the non-football aspect of it. The football aspect of it says South Carolina needs a wide receiver one. Nothing against Jared Brown and Jaden McGowan and whoever else they get out of the portal at receiver and the guys incoming like Gatling and Mazio and the guys on campus. There's none of those guys that are as proven at a high level as Juice Wells. Juice Wells, had he been healthy this year, first of all, the Gamecocks would probably been better than 5-7. Secondly, he's probably at least a second-round pick. Is that good? Even in this loaded receiving, the guy can high point it. He's great after the catch. He's strong enough to break tackles. Once you get him in the open field, he gets separation as good as anybody in the country. Barring like a bad 40 time at the combine, had he come back and picked up where he left off, there's no question in my mind he'd have been a high level pick. Hal, it's Hal, the 2001 computer Hal. I thought it was Sam. Anyway, so all right. So fast forward, what happened. You can't do anything about it. He probably could have played, just to be honest, the last couple of games. I'm not going to say that for sure, but good authority, he probably could have gone. Mm-hmm. Elected not to. Protected another year of eligibility because now he has 2 left instead of, although he could have played in at least one more game and still been a redshirt. So there's that. And so a lot of that happened. So then he, NIL wise, the South Carolina made him a deal that honest to God, based on the numbers that were thrown around out there. And you never know because I think everybody around South Carolina, all of our folks, kind of walked around thinking he was making $1 million last year, and he wasn't even close to that. That's not. It was a really good deal. Right. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't $1 million, not even close. He's got a ton of Park Avenue deals. He's got great relationships with brands and with those guys. I mean, really solid money in that end too. The deal that South Carolina could have, NIL-wise, on this end could have been made, could have ended up paying him more at the end of the day. But there are certain things you have to do, not go and pay. You can't go pay for play. You can't require them to pay. But you can backload things and just kind of make sure, out of an abundance of caution. And I'm not talking about backloading all of it. I'm just talking about, hey, you didn't play last year. Your NIL value is down. I mean, if you're just evaluating from a straight NIL standpoint, your value's down because you didn't play. Here's the deal. Let's get this done. And so South Carolina's deal was perfectly okay. And but then there's rumors out there. Well, Texas can give you this. Tennessee can give you this. So I checked with a source over the weekend. He called me. He's a college football source, has connections in a lot of places. He's the one that told me Florida State's got one foot out the door in the ACC, and it's for real and all that, and I believe him. But he's got some connections at Tennessee. He said that Tennessee's not going to go on the kid.
No.
And here's why. It's not the injury, and it's not the money. It's kind of how he handled it at the end of the season. Coaches and collectives, the 2 C's, the CNC Music Factory, so to speak.
Yeah, well,
they're not going to chance that on a kid. I mean, especially a receiver where if you're Tennessee and Texas and Ole Miss, you have plenty of talent at those spots. You know why? And you've got other needs you maybe need to fill.
Yeah, JC, it is highly unlike. You mentioned Tennessee being out of this thing. It's highly unlikely he ends up in Austin, Texas, too. So if it's not Oxford, I mean, right now, if it's not Oxford, and again, look, all this, we say these things, and this happens to you way more than me, because you're the reporter on the Big Spur. We're about to include Brad Crawford into this conversation in just a quick second. This happens to him way more than me because he's a reporter and does all the digging with 24/7 Sports. That's not my job. I hear it, but I don't have to report it. So what I'm about to say is, or what I'm saying is, in this new era of college football, you can say he's not, based on what we know, he's not doing this and he's not doing that, and it can change in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it can change. Like, you're just reporting what you know. So what I know now, and I'm pretty sure this corresponds exactly with what you know, Texas and Tennessee aren't happening, and Ole Miss is very much in it, but less than they were, and that could dwindle away as well. So I don't know. My point is, I don't know what his future looks like, but Tony, when he reported this 2 days ago, I think it was, right? Isn't that when Tony's the first one to say something 2 days ago?
Yeah,
Tony was on it, and he's probably even more on it today than he was 48 hours ago.
Yeah, and look, if you're South Carolina and you're just looking at the same, at the football aspect of it, and I told Brad this for his article he wrote. South Carolina needs a WR1. There's not many in the portal that are WR1s. I don't know who ranked London Humphreys ahead of him in the 24/7 ranking.
Yeah,
to me that's silly. But there are not many WR1s out there.
Sorry, London.
So if you're South Carolina, I think you try to work it out from a football standpoint, but there's more to it. I mean, there's team, there's and look, I said this yesterday, and people were like, well, no. They mentioned something about handling it internally. What I meant by that was the relationship between Juice and his teammates, if it is damaged, and I don't know that it is, because I think most people love Juice around the building. If there's any damage that's been done, that's got to be handled in the freaking locker room. It's not for us to decide. If there is anything like that, they'll have to fix it. But I think it's a lot easier to get somebody to embrace the prodigal son than it is to go bring in someone new in this situation, given the landscape at that position in the portal this year. What's up, Brad
Crawford?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
Good, Brad. Good to have you.
Go ahead, Brad. We've been talking about Juice. You got anything on it?
I think it's very poignant what JC said about those inside the program still like him, and that's the key in all this. There seems to be a segment of the South Carolina fan base that doesn't want Juice back. And I understand that based on what's going on, but you have to understand South Carolina is not in a position against two programs coming off double-digit win seasons to be telling a top-end wide receiver one like Juice, we don't want you anymore because you're asking too much. Of course they welcome him back. And anything said opposite of that is just false. That's the nature of the beast in new college football, unfortunately. And like I said, I understand the portion of the fan base's frustrations. Ole Miss and Texas, you guys have mentioned, are two that we're all keeping an eye on. But my sources in Oxford don't feel as good about Juice Wells as they did, say, 72 hours ago about a possible commitment. And you look at Texas, those I've talked to, their number one target in the portal is not Juice Wells. It's a Houston kid. And they obviously want to add Juice too, but the Houston kid's probably going to be a cheaper route for Texas. And they already got some guys coming back next year. So I think Juice hasn't announced anything yet, but as the days wear on and the closer we get to next week's early signing period, the chances are growing that Juice could return to South Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that, Brad. And like you said, hey, look, they're inside that building. They'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. They'll figure it out. I mean, I understand why people look. If I was a teammate knowing what I know, we'd be having a conversation, and it'd probably be a little bit more than that. Let them work it out, though. That's what it's all about. They're men; they'll figure it out. And you've got a coaching staff that understands the same thing that you just said. Like, look, we just went 5-7. We're about to debut a quarterback who's going to start his first career game against Old Dominion next year. Sure would be nice to have an All-American catching passes out there to help him kind of get his way along, right?
Oh, yeah. This has been a very strong portal haul, too. I want to mention for Shane Beamer. Even if he doesn't retain Juice Wells, I don't think he's done yet either. No team in college football has flipped the running back room like South Carolina has done. I actually just spoke to Jordan Waters, and the Gamecocks are still in contact with him, the Duke running back. And like JC mentioned earlier today, I do think South Carolina is looking at a third running back to take. They're going to sign a quarterback, probably another wide receiver. So this is a top 10 transfer class right now that could be even better this time next week.
We were just talking about that a little while ago. I want to get another quick comment from you on that, because the rankings only matter if you fill your needs. Like,
Sure.
If you don't fill your needs, and you can look at rankings all day. You might have brought in 17 corners, but you don't need 17 corners. But Carolina, Brad, as of the end of the season, when Juice announced he was going to transfer, obviously Leggett was leaving. You knew what was going on in the running back room. You had to add there anyways. And then all of a sudden, Mario Anderson decides he's going to do whatever the hell he figures out to do with himself. And then we knew the defensive tackle position. Those were the three at the top. You're not going to take good player. You're not going to not take good players anywhere, but those were the three. And then we need a backup quarterback, or at least somebody to come in and compete with Lenoris, who's got some time in college football. But here's my point: of the five that they have, they've addressed the needs. They're about to double down on addressing the needs, and then they're going to address it on top of that when they add a quarterback. Right now, it could be AJ Swan.
And it's not like this is a portal cycle, JB, where there's a ton of high-end running backs. The Gamecocks have got commitments from probably 2 of the top 6 right now. And if they were to get Duke's Jordan Waters, he's a top 10 guy at the position for me too available. So I don't think there should be much worry offensively heading into January if they're able to sign 3 running backs. Dow Loggins, this time last year was looking at a converted wide receiver as his first string running back, a Newberry kid that had not played major college football yet, and then Juju McDowell, who is just too small to play, a significant carry SEC guy. But there's not going to be a lot of mystery back there, I think, when the Gamecocks open spring practice, if they do have 3 new scholarship guys. And like I said, I expect them to add a third ball carrier, probably another wide receiver. You would like to get a wide receiver 1. They're high on the Coastal guy, but I'm not sure if he's a wide receiver 1 at the SEC level. But I do think Beamer and his staff can sleep easy during the holidays with no depth concerns at those spots.
Yeah, I'd like for him to add a receiver or 2 as well. And there's some possibilities out there. I'll just say that.
Can I ask the 2 of you a question on this real quick on the receiver situation, or I mean on the ranking situation? If Juice Wells recommits to South Carolina, does that affect their transfer portal ranking since he's in the transfer
That's a darn
portal?
good class. Then you're talking about a top 3 class if they sign who I consider top.
You get credit for him again, huh? That would be crazy.
Because if that's the thing that gets the fan base juice, then every year Shane needs to take his top 5 players, tell them to go in the transfer portal and recommit to the Gamecocks, and let's have that number 1 transfer class every season.
Man, back when I was at Rivals, we counted guys, and we fixed it at 24/7. We counted guys twice. Like we had no way technically to take gray shirts because you wanted to calculate it on signing day, and then the gray shirts would technically arrive in the next class. So I remember one time Alabama got, and Auburn fans went nuts. Alabama got credit for the same 5-star kid 3 times, and dude never played. He was just a bust. It was back during the Shula era. I'll have to look up the exact player, but he gray shirted, and then he got hurt, and he gray shirted again. So he was 2 years delayed enrollment, and finally, and he counted all 3 times. It was the high school ranking. It was crazy. Yeah, I think with Rocket Sanders, tell me about Rocket Sanders because there's some discussion in the chat box about this, and I'll remind everyone, football development sometimes isn't linear, especially when you're dealing with injuries. Everybody seems to forget about that, like when they trash Carolina's O-line, next year's O-line preeminently. They're like, oh, well, these guys were walking around on one leg. Talk about Rocket 2023 versus Rocket 2022. I think it's noticeable on film, but give us your insight into kind of what went into his struggles in Arkansas this year.
Well, and I'm going to say this too, Jay. So for the folks worrying about the Gamecocks offensive line and if Rocket can have a 1,000-yard season, the Arkansas offensive line was supposed to be a strength under Sam Pittman. It's been anything but. They haven't had a good O-line in his several years there so far. And Rocket 2 years ago had 1,400 yards behind a not-so-great line. This past season, obviously, he was nicked up with a couple injuries. I spoke to one of our Arkansas writers. He thinks Rocket played too heavy last season, and he lost some of his explosiveness because he played at 235, 240. I don't think he's going to play that heavy at Carolina. He's going to probably be a 225 guy. And at 6'2", 225, I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for in a quick SEC running back. He's also a good threat out the backfield, just like Attaway is. And, we're going to see a RPO-heavy offense next season. Lenore's going to run the ball a little bit too. So I think it'll be interesting to see if this 2024 Carolina offense looks a lot like the Arkansas 2022 offense. And I found it interesting because Dow Loggins was the O-line coach, tight ends coach, 2 years ago at Arkansas when Rocket had those 1,400 yards. And I asked the Arkansas source, did he have a hand in play calling? And he said unofficially no, but
officially no, you mean?
Right. He thinks he did. Okay. I think we're going to see ground and pound next fall.
There's a lot of Arkansas
can I add
stuff
something to that
in the playbook, by the way.
I want to add something to that conversation with Rocket Man. Anybody know who one of the assistant strength coaches is now at South Carolina? Jamil Walker, who was the head strength coach at Arkansas when Rocket Sanders was in prime shape in 2022. He came over and joined the Gamecock staff prior to this past season in 2023, working along Luke Day. You think he doesn't know Rocket Sanders inside and out and what he does and doesn't do well and what that body's supposed to look like? He's the one that trained him when they flipped him into the running back room and he became an All-American. I mean, and that's one name that has not been brought up.
Tackles. Nobody broke more tackles 2 years ago than Rocket Sanders. Like I said, he played behind a line that he wasn't getting 3.5, 4 yards of carry before first contact. He was having to make guys miss as soon as he got the handoff, which is what Gamecock running backs failed to do this past season. I blame a lot of the running game struggles this fall on the offensive line, but it was a talent issue too. No disrespect to the guys that were in that room.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
There were some plays too, especially when DeCarrion was getting because I think as far as playing too heavy goes, there's your example of guys playing too heavy. Even early, he'd have a hole, he'd hit it. It's a 4 or 5 yard gain, but he was getting tracked down from behind. Rocket Sanders goes through that same hole. The band's playing. I mean, even last year, Brad, and he was a step slower when you watch his game when he was healthy against Florida. 18 carries, 106 yards. Obviously did not have the same elite explosiveness, but he had that make you miss, like you were talking about, the tackle breaking ability and stuff in that Florida game. And you watched him, and you're like, yeah, man, that guy, he can make things happen. And, I think he accelerates when he's in his prime as well as anybody, whereas, a less talented back is not going to have that ability. You also mentioned being elusive in the backfield, making the first guy miss. I saw that really in both years' highlight tapes with him over and over and over again.
He also runs behind his pads, JC, and the Gamecocks haven't had a back like that. And probably since Mike Davis. Lattimore obviously was the strongest at doing that, but he's a guy that delivers a hit and can withstand a hit and then get more yards. And South Carolina badly needs a back who, on 2nd and 10 falls forward for a couple of yards when the play breaks down. They just haven't had that. And probably led the SEC the last 2 years in, negative or zero game plays.
I hate to do this to you because I generally agree with everything you say, but I'd say maybe since Kevin Harris sure was special in 2020. I don't even know if they would have gained 1 yard the entire season collectively as an offense without Kevin Harris, running for 121 yards per game or whatever it was in 10 SEC games. That was pretty impressive. Brad, where do you think they've got 5 guys now? Well, if you want to include Jerome Simmons, he's a JUCO guy. That's how we used to track transfers. But Jerome Simmons, so we can throw 6 in there. But where do you think this thing goes next? And I guess, actually, let me ask that differently. A.J. Swan is a guy whose name continues to come up. We've watched him play for 2 years at Vanderbilt. What type of fit do you think that would be in this QB room, and how would it help Gamecock football?
I think he's a good fit. I think he would challenge Lenoris but not start. But he's also a guy that, in case Lenoris gets hurt, you have a guy who has started pretty much his whole career at the SEC football level. And there's not a lot of those available right now in the portal, by the way. I want to make one quick note, too, on KJ Jefferson. I haven't totally slammed that door yet. And everything I've heard from sources is KJ is still planning on entering the portal. The problem with that is his market value is not what he or his representation thinks it is as a 3-year SEC starter. He's a guy that I know I've told JC this, that I think is comparable to Lenora Sellers, same kind of body type, same RPO-based passer. But KJ is looking for a fit where he comes in as starter, and Gamecock staff would definitely not guarantee that if he was an ad. But I think A.J. Swan right now, there's a reason why he's been on campus for 48 to 72 hours. That's the guy that I think the Gamecock staff wants to go with now that KJ and a few others have kind of dragged their feet this cycle. But there's going to be some more quarterbacks into the portal too. We just saw Malik Murphy yesterday make it official, and he's probably top of the line right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a bevy of major elite offers.
Do you anticipate? So we're 6 days from signing day, and we've got the portal until the end of the month. Do you anticipate changes on South Carolina's coaching staff?
So I think Shane Beamer has made the right move in not announcing any yet if he has made that decision. I know at the end of the season, after the Clemson game, had Shane Beamer listened to the Gamecock fan base, they probably wouldn't be where they are right now in the transfer portal with a few of these commits. Okay. Montario Hardesty being, the number one guy mentioned there. And then you look at Clayton White as the DC. Next year's a contract year for him. It expires at December 31st, 2024. And that 3.35 the last 4 or 5 weeks really made South Carolina's talent on that side of the ball play a lot more loose, and they played a heck of a lot better as a defensive unit as a whole. So I think Clayton White's safe. I don't know if Shane Beamer's going to make any changes, but if he signs a top 10 portal class and that staff collectively feels good about this roster heading into the new year, maybe you stick with the staff you have and let it ride through next fall.
Brad Crawford, 24/7 Sports. Go ahead, JC.
No, I'm with. This is kind of what Beamer does, though. He's not in a hurry to do changes. And I think there's something to be said for that philosophy. It's not what I would do. I'm kind of a let's have a day of reckoning after the Clemson game kind of guy, But if people think back on it, Steve Spurrier handled it the same way many, many times. 08 was the exception because I think things were just so bad at the end of that year after getting beat by Clemson. Dabo gets the job. There was just some changes that had to be made. And Spurrier, of course, fired John Hunt, and David Reeves left and went to Tennessee, and blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on. But Spurrier usually would just be like, well, and you'd be sitting there and you'd ask him about a play. But see, usually Carolina's getting ready for a bowl. Everybody's happy. And he's like, oh, shoot, we're not going to talk about that right now. We'll get on that later. Fred Chatham literally got fired without anybody telling. Just all of a sudden they hired another assistant. Ray Richleski gets hired. And Freddie, well, shoot, that we only have him now, and somebody's got to go. And so people think back to it. Spurrier was kind of the same way. Even Muschamp gave Kurt Roper some time to kind of look for something, although it was imminent, and he certainly wasn't coaching the bowl. So I don't know, man. I think, remember Brian McClendon was still on staff at Carolina after Bobo was hired.
Even
Muschamp wouldn't even address it. I'm not going to get into that now.
And even last year, Shane let Marcus Satterfield's best friend hire him out west,
right?
Rather than announce he's out. So
I would have written him a letter of recommendation. Oh, I got to ask you about that. WTH, is he going to get Kyle McCord and Dylan Raiola?
So it sounds like Kyle McCord is going elsewhere, and Fran Brown, the new head coach at Syracuse, the top-rate recruiter at Georgia last season, may sign Kyle McCord.
Wow,
that would.
I like Fran, man. I think he's real, dude. He's a real dude.
But yeah, Kyle McCord visited Nebraska on Monday, and whatever conversation he had with Matt Rule or Marcus Satterfield, man, didn't go too well. It sounds like, but they are about to flip Dylan Raiola, and
that is going to happen.
This is pure speculation here, but if they do flip Raiola, I think there's a conversation between Satterfield and Raiola that this is your job next year, and probably Kyle McCord wanted nothing to do with that. I would think.
All right, but I want to, since we've only got about 8 minutes, we got Derek Scott coming up at 1:05 today, so we want to make sure we get him on time too. So I'm going to squeeze in everything I can in the next 8 minutes here with you. Elsewhere in the SEC, who is just, when it comes to the transfer portal, needs to make it happen, but just isn't making it happen?
I think Texas A&M, man, has lost 19 players heading into that bowl game, and we're talking about probably 8 defensive starters, and like 5 are in the portal now. 3 are going to the NFL. I think it's very interesting to see that not only Gamecocks target LT Overton, but Fidel Diggs is another guy who led the team in havoc plays last season. I don't know what Mike Elko is going to have in terms of a too deep defensively, and that's his expertise on defense. They love Connor Weigman there. Haven't taken a quarterback this cycle, but this portal needs to improve for A&M. And then on the flip side of that, I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, man, right now, once again, are just killing it. And see, he's able to sell 2 10-win seasons the last 3 years, which he gets that next year, he's a playoff team. And a lot of SEC teams right now outside of Bama, Georgia, maybe Tennessee, they can't sell that in the portal. And the Grove, the Ole Miss collective there, has shown that it's not afraid to spend some money. So that's always key.
Hey, Lane, let me give you some advice. Don't tell anybody you're only going to be around for 2-3 more years.
See, we always say that, but then all of a sudden these big jobs that open, Lane's not a realistic candidate for any of them. Maybe Florida, maybe Alabama if Saban leaves.
Well, I was referencing Spurrier in 14. Well, I'll be here another 2-3 years.
2 or 3 more years again.
Did he say 2 or 3? Coach, I don't think I'm going to come to Carolina anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Neither is every other player on this.
A&M not going through a rebuild next year, I think it'll be good for Carolina because you look at
they need to go through a rebuild. Yeah. So Florida. I mean, what about the Gators? I mean,
they're not on the schedule.
Well, I know. I'm just talking about in the transfer portal. They've lost 16 players. They haven't added one yet.
Yeah, they lost Tinsley, who's their top defensive player, who's probably going to sign with Ole Miss. And when Florida is unable to retain their best players, and they lose them to a program that historically is lower than them in Ole Miss, that's a bad sign for Napier. And then they're bringing back Graham Mertz, which the fan base is kind of they've sold their stock on Graham Mertz. They want to see DJ Lagway,
who may end up at Clemson.
Right.
Golly, I guess this time
Don't
next
count
year,
it out.
This time next year, Jamie Chadwell will be the new head football coach in Gainesville. Might as well prepare ourselves for this.
No, they're not smart enough to hire him. They'll hire some other guy that could be a recruiter.
Oh, Jimbo. They'll hire Jimbo.
Oh, that would be bad.
Y'all know the SEC loves its incestual relationship, so they'll definitely hire a former SEC staff.
It'll be Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops will take that one.
Oh, yeah.
It'll definitely be that, man. Ooh, shoot. Golly, man. That's,
Brad, any reaction to the schedule release last night? What'd you think about the Gamecocks draw and anything else that stood out to you?
I'll say this, man. I don't want to single him out, but SEC Network host Peter Burns said that after the show, and he has a job to do. He's the SEC guy, but he said that this is the first time that all SEC schedules have been evenly balanced out. And I'm looking at the Gamecock schedule thinking 3 consecutive top 10 teams potentially in Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma. I don't know, man. I think next year's schedule might look similarly to 2020, where the bad coaches in the league are going to get exposed in this new SEC. But you look at Texas' schedule, man, it's cake. It couldn't be easier for the Longhorns in their first season, almost a shoe-in to make the 12-team playoff. If I'm a Gamecock fan, I'll say this, though. The 12-team playoff has certainly increased the likelihood that if Shane can get to a 9-3 or a 10-2 later in his tenure here, Gamecocks are in the 12-team playoff.
I 100% agree. I mean,
I agree with Texas.
Yeah.
Not easy. It's a very
that's what JC was saying. And then the flip side of that, the final 5 games of the season for the Gators. Oh, whoa, Brad, have you seen that?
I've seen it. They only have 1 game against a non-Power 5 team. I mean, even the non-conference next year is against UCF.
Yeah,
and
who
Miami.
scheduled that? Who scheduled that?
That's the hell? So the odds makers, when those early win totals come out in like March or April, it's going to be about 5.5 again for Florida. And if Napier has another 5-7, he's out.
Well, he's going to have an 0-5. I mean, they've got Georgia and Jacksonville. Then they got to go to Texas. Those are both losses. And then they host LSU. We'll see.
And if Florida State signs Cam Ward, Florida State's a top 10 team.
And prior to that, they welcome Lane Kiffin to the Swamp. So you got that's crazy.
So one thing about Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, their quarterback, has been kind of coy on whether he's coming back or not. And if they win the bowl game and he has a big game and he goes to the draft, all of a sudden Ole Miss is in the quarterback market and all the big names are gone.
You don't think Spencer Sanders would step in that situation, or Walker Howard, or the guys they got?
So Walker would probably be the starter. I think Spencer would be on his 6th season, and he didn't fare too well as Dart's backup this season.
No, he didn't look good at all. He's like, when he got in a couple of games, I was like, this is the guy that set a record at Oklahoma State. On Oklahoma, though, Brad, Oklahoma's lost their entire offensive line to the transfer portal. Did you know this?
Yeah. And
is that real? Seriously?
And they're
starting their whole starting offensive line. All of them are in the portal.
And I'll have a first-year quarterback, a whole new offensive line, and a first-year offensive coordinator.
It's brutal. And Caden Green, their best returning offensive lineman, who portaled yesterday, I was told there's a bidding war between Missouri and Oregon. So Oklahoma's not going to retain them. That's for sure.
That's crazy. And it's like, so South Carolina goes to Norman, and that's always going to stink. But and I talked to a coach that is on a Big 12 staff this year that used to coach in the SEC, and he said there's a big difference between Texas and where they're at talent-wise. And he said Oklahoma to him just is not ready to go. And I trust him. So
that makes me feel a lot better because I've already got hotel rooms in Norman.
Yeah, I was told there's some casinos around that part of the country in Oklahoma. So
I think Oklahoma's fired up myself. They're probably an 8-4-ish team next season, and sort of
perfect
inside the industry here. Brent Venables now has a reputation that he doesn't overpay for talent through NIL in the portal and recruiting. So I think it's interesting that Brent sort of has the Dabo mentality, and the guys I sign, I'm going to develop, and we're going to be elite, regardless of what the ratings and all that say.
Well, it's a lot easier to be elite when you're playing Duke and North Carolina and Wake Forest and Virginia and NC State than it is when you got to play, LSU and freaking Texas A&M. And heck, throw Missouri in there now for craps and giggles because they're every bit an SEC program right now. So So yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, as Gamecocks, nobody should sit there and go, "Oh, there's no way they'll win," because yes, Oklahoma's on the jersey, but this may not be one of your better. Keep in mind before Bob Stoops got there, remember John Blake, the John Blake era? They've been bad before. It's just been a long time.
I mean, Oklahoma's starting running back next year is going to be the former starter at UT Martin. So that's where Oklahoma is right now.
Yeah. So don't just can't count it out. A&M the same way. Missouri comes to come on, guys. It's just I think it's a fearful thing because Carolina's been so bad against the West through the years. But
yeah,
as we get off here, Brad, I'll say this: go look up Shane Beamer's record against the SEC East, or what used to be the SEC East.
It's terrible. It's not good.
It's terrible. So maybe this is a good thing, right?
So by subtracting Florida, Tennessee, and Georgia, that's addition by subtraction.
And
based
Missouri,
on the last 3 years,
they need to get rid of Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri's still there, but Kentucky and Vandy, he's 5-1 against those two. So
week 2 at Kentucky, fellas, that's a must win.
That's a big one, isn't it? Yeah. Big one.
It's a big one.
Hey, Brad, we got to let you run, but really can't thank you enough for your time. Maybe we will, but if we don't, to you and your family and your newborn, first Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of y'all. We really do appreciate everything you do, and I know I'm quite sure Santa's going to be landing on your roof, so make sure it's stable.
He will be. Three presents each for the girls. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. It's the best time of the year when you got kids, isn't it? It's amazing.
It is, man. Thank y'all for having me today.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. The great Brad Crawford, 247sports.com. We got to go. When we get back, Derek Scott, he'll deliver gifts to Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
This holiday season, you can give a gift like never before. Hey guys, it's JB. Rescues in Resin produces custom-designed wood and resin products. From tables to wall art, coasters to cutting boards, and pretty much anything you can dream. Proud Gamecocks and veteran-owned, Dustin and Tabitha are creating products that will blow your family and friends away when they take the wrapping paper off this Christmas. Check them out in the Chief Sports app now and get your custom order in before it's too late. Rescues in Resin are also proud supporters of Carolina Rise and proud partners of the Chief Sports Network. Rescues in Resin at gmail.com or in the Chief Sports app is where you can find them. Change your gift-giving game today by ordering a custom design through our friends Tabitha and Dustin and Rescues in Resin.
My company is Billy G's Carolina Barbecue. We are based in Columbia, South Carolina, and we have 2 lines of sauces and a spice rub. I mean, when people try our product, they know it's a gourmet product, and it can go on any type of food. It's not surprisingly delicious, it's expectedly delicious.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
With a little love and some tenderness, we'll walk upon the water, we'll rise above the mist. With a little peace and some harmony, we'll take the world together, we'll take them by the hand. 'Cause I got a hand for you.
All right, it is 1:05 on the dot. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and live from the Sinorama Studios. We are. Hey, Phil. I'm glad you could.
Quick
glad you could
change
join
there.
us. Glad you could join us here on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, December the 14th. Want to once again remind you about our friends at Rescues in Resin, rescuesinresin.com. This holiday season, but every season could be for a birthday, could be for an anniversary, could just be because you love neat stuff. Doesn't matter. Rescuesinresin.com. I've got some stuff coming in the mail from them. Dustin and Tabitha are huge supporters of Carolina Rise and the NIL efforts at the University of South Carolina, of course. And they are also amazing at what they do. Look at that. Look at that cutting board. If you're watching us and you see this, it doesn't have to have Carolina Rise on it. It can have something. It can have a picture of your dog. Which, you know what? That's a good idea. I might have them make one of those with capers on it. But, rest in peace, my man. So that's what we have coming there. We've
Don't
got
make me cry today.
I wasn't trying to make you cry. When I want to make you cry, it's pretty easy to do. I'll text you and tell you that you're going to cry before I actually do it.
Those videos, man. Jeez.
Look at that. Look at those things. So these are just awesome coasters and things like that from Rescues in Resin. Dustin, Tabitha, if you're watching, thank you so much for what you do for everybody. Really appreciate it. Thanks to your service to our country, and this Merry Christmas to everybody this holiday season. Derek should be in here any moment. Is he in? He is.
Yeah.
So
is he here? Let him in.
He's always. Yeah, everybody wants to see Derek Scott more than us. I would assure you that. Phil, here's a question for you. Every day at 1:00, Darius Rucker sings "Hold My Hand" to us as we can. Would you rather listen to Darius Rucker or Derek Scott?
Oh well, singing. I don't know. I've never heard Derek
What
sing.
sport are we talking about?
I don't care what the options are. If it's him singing and me yodeling, come on.
Give me a game and a game 3 in Omaha, and I'll go there. I'll go Derek. And,
I guess that would have been smart.
JB, you're sitting there showing off those awesome-looking Christmas gift options, and I'm on the heels of a virtual holiday party yesterday for my employers, my day job. Mm-hmm. So first off, it's a virtual Christmas party. They ship out everybody's gift ahead of time, and you're supposed to open it on screen. I appreciate the effort, but somebody came up with some shtick, which was a lump of coal that you then have to – it comes with a hammer and safety glasses, and you have to crack into the lump of coal to see what's inside of it. I don't know if you guys can even see this, if I can hold this up. I had coal all over my
God.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It was an epic disaster. If anybody ever gets wind of this concept, run as far away from it as you can.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It was a gift card on the inside of a block.
Coal is just a gift card.
No wonder it was virtual. They didn't want that in an office anywhere.
I had coal dust all over my hands. There was crap in the floor. I'm trying to explain to the people out here in the offices what the racket was about. It was,
That's brutal, Derek.
What?
Not trying to be bah humbug, but holy crap! What a mess.
What was the gift? What was the gift card for?
Well, it was an option. I could go in and choose from a number of different retailers, so that end of it was fine. It was just getting to it that was like something out. I mean, it really was. It was I just kept thinking, this is a sequel to a holiday movie gone wrong. Somewhere there's got to be Steve Carell doing this scene instead of me, or it was hilariously bad. Just a disaster.
That is hilarious.
Well, Merry Christmas, I guess.
Yeah. So in other words, why didn't they just get me some of those coasters? Those were badass, man. I think I would have been a lot better with those.
We might need to just send you a set of those anyways for everything you do for us. That would be a good. Let's. As a matter of fact, JC, I'll tee that up. I'll get those Dustin to make a set. We'll get those to Derek here as soon as we can.
Yeah,
we owe you that anyways, at minimum.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
Always willing to come on. You do it while you're on the road. I mean,
I wasn't even angling for that, but I'll take it.
We're gonna put it inside a lump of coal.
Yeah, exactly. I thought when they said you were getting a lump of coal, I said, hey, West Virginia jokes aside, are we serious about this stuff? Have I been any worse than anybody else in this group this year? Or what are we talking about?
That's right. So we're gonna make you smash it on air. I mean, there's going to be some stipulations here.
In the hoops side of things, by the way, I warned everybody this could happen last night, and it happened in a big way. UNLV beat the out of 8th ranked Creighton out there in the Jack Jones Classic. And then if Chicago didn't have enough upheaval every night, they had outside of the basketball court. They had plenty of it on it last night. Old 3-9 Chicago State walked in and upset 25th ranked Northwestern.
Yep,
that was a big deal.
Yep,
up there.
Hey, Eric Hyman. Eric Hyman for a short stint was a consultant at Chicago State. Chicago State's interesting. It's an HBCU. They've always kind of maybe been the worst Division I basketball program out there. I think DePaul may be worse, unfortunately, for the Gamecocks this year.
Well, but if DePaul's worse, then Louisville's worse than DePaul. I mean, I'm getting out of the Chicago sphere.
But that's shocking. Louisville, I mean, there's a transfer portal now, guys. Did you not go? And you're Louisville.
I don't think it's just talent. I really think they just made an incredibly bad hire, and I hate it because I don't know anybody that has a bad word to say about Kenny Payne. But my gosh, what a disaster it has turned into there.
Well, speaking of non-disasters, South Carolina's sitting on a non-disaster right now on the court. This game is Charleston Southern Saturday, right, Derek?
Yes.
Am I correct? I don't have the basketball schedule memorized like the football schedule, but
CSU, Winthrop, Elon, and FAMU.
Yeah, so it gets back with CSU Saturday tip-off. I'm going to tell everybody out there, I think there's going to be more than just game reasons for there to try to be a decent crowd there Saturday. There's some potential for the future there that may be around. But another game after this break, and the East Carolina game was certainly exciting. A big road win. I think East Carolina could make some noise in the American. They've got some players, but what's kind of your overall feel of the team right now heading into this stretch, which should be successful? But watching this program through the last few years, just when you think that a Stetson comes in and beats you or something.
Well, and just when JB was just rattling off those scores from last night. I mean, it happens, if you're not ready to go this time of year, if you've had a big layoff or, they give you a couple of days off to focus on final exams, you could come out flat, whatever the case is. I think you worry more about that one, just to be honest. I think you worry more about that against Winthrop than you do against CSU. But nonetheless, you've got 4 home games here to finish up non-conference. There's every opportunity in the world to be 12-1 going into the new year. And that would be pretty amazing way to start this season. On last week being what it was, which was 2 true road games and 2 really tough atmospheres. Yes, you were real close to 2-0. But coming out of it 1-1 the way they did and getting tested in both environments, I think there's a ton of positives to pull from that. And now we're seeing Colin Murray-Boyles merging back into the rotation. That's big. He brings a layer of athleticism that they don't probably get anywhere else on that roster. And these next 4 will be great for him in terms of more experience, just more reps. And probably in terms of getting back into game shape where he can play longer stretches. I think that's huge. Just a lot of positives right now for this team. And knock on wood, the only guy who seems even a little bit dinged up right now is Morris Ugasuk, and having a week off, probably very good for his ankle as well. So,
Yeah, let's go back to Greenville, because last year in Greenville, South Carolina, that group of Pirates up there came to town, beat the Gamecocks by 8, and they started to make a little bit of a run on Saturday, and you thought, oh no, not again, right? But here comes the leadership, and BJ Mack, big old shot there, and kind of got him going. Describe the environment, though, man. It looked like it was pretty pumping in there. They were fired up for this sucker, including that video they pranked Rattler on.
That was something, wasn't it? Yeah, I was impressed, man, because that's a school that in 40 years has maybe been, to 2, maybe 3 NCAA tournaments. I mean, it has been bad basketball for the long haul up there. Baseball, that's a baseball school, and football is the one they aspire to be good at. Basketball really gets left behind. And Michael Schwartz has made some real strides in a short amount of time there, being a second-year coach himself. And they are one of the schools out there who stands to benefit the most from yesterday's court ruling, allowing that second-time transfer immediate eligibility for those guys. There's a handful of dudes who had been stuck and not allowed to play. They've got one of the better ones, Cam Hayes, who will now be eligible to play for ECU. And you never know how it affects chemistry, but he could be a nice piece for them as they get into conference play. But yeah, the atmosphere was tremendous. It's a small gym, so it doesn't take a lot to make it very loud, but it was relatively full, and the students were in it. And considering it was a noon game, they were really getting after it. And that's what Lamont and I talked about afterwards. He said, the building I played in Chattanooga, the Roundhouse, they always said the acoustics were terrible for concerts, but it made it great for basketball because it was just really loud, just low ceiling, and it bounced around. That noise bounced around, and he compared Minji's Coliseum to that, and he was pleased about it because when you on the back end, when you win a game like that, you feel like this is great. This is battle testing my guys, and Michi Johnson stepped up after a quiet first half and made all the big plays that were needed. And then you mentioned that shot that BJ hit, and they closed it out, and that was huge because they were absolutely teetering. There's no question about it. It had gotten down to a one-possession game. They'd lost the lead there momentarily. And you started having those flashbacks to the Clemson game. It's like, can we do this again? Can we lead for 80% of a game and come out on the short end twice in a week? That's not good, but it didn't happen, and that's all that matters.
What do you think they learned in that Clemson loss? Have you talked to them about that at all, the players and coaches?
Not really. I mean, I want to hear from LP on that tonight on Carolina Calls, but I do feel like, when you run into a situation like that, it's about just being able to really lock down and stay in your offensive system. But they also walked out of that game feeling like the shots were there. They just didn't make them down the stretch.
That's right.
And maybe you squandered that first half where you were playing so well defensively and didn't get the lead as big as you probably should have been, where you go into the locker room up by 7 or 8 and you're thinking, it should probably be 14 or 15. And will that matter? And as it turned out, it really did matter at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to kind of reset the scene for everybody that maybe has been glued to the transfer portal because South Carolina basketball is off to a hot start. They're 8-1. They've got 4 games left here in 2023. They're all non-cons: CSU, Winthrop, Elon, and Florida A&M. If you can do simple math, if they win all 4 of those games as they are expected to, they'll finish the non-conference schedule at 12-1. Will be the best in quite some time in Columbia. It also, though, would continue to improve their net ranking, which sits at number 28 in the nation. It would also include improving the Ken Palm rankings, which right now sit at 52, and it probably would also help them in Joe Lunardi's bracketology, which generally here in the state of South Carolina, we don't pay a whole lot of attention to that in December, but when your team is included in it, you kind of start peaking. And if anybody hasn't noticed, they are the first 4 buys, or last 4 buys in his bracketology. One of the other 4 is a team named Mississippi State, who just so happens to be coming to Columbia on national television on Saturday, January the 6th, Derek. So why am I saying all of that? These next 4 contests, all winnable, all should be W's, and on that side of the column, they are very, very important, and this program needs lots of support through the end of December to set that matchup up in January.
Well, and I love what they're doing in the athletics department to try and help increase the skids for people making their decisions for their families, because as expensive as it is to feed a family anywhere now, if you can bring them to a game and tell the kids, go eat as many hot dogs as you can, and, just pump Coke into your system. Let's jam some popcorn down our gullet, and it's not going to cost us anything. That's about as good as you can do, because, heck, you can't go to lunch anymore and get out of any place for seemingly less than $15 a head, it feels like. So that's a huge benefit. And if there's folks who are looking for ways to entertain their family during the holidays, why not? If you can get game tickets and have those free concessions, and they stretch that out over 4 different optional dates to take advantage of that, hat tip to that crew for coming up with that idea and figuring out a way to make it work financially, where your concession partner doesn't, take the brunt of that, because that's obviously you need them to support an idea like it too. So you've got to make it work for them financially. So whoever had the pencil out and making the numbers make sense, that's awesome. And that's what this program needs, is that kind of support within the athletic department, because everybody's, every sport wants their piece of the pie. They want that spotlight, and it's hard to get your moment when you are, sharing the stage with the number 1 team in the nation on the women's side. It can be challenging. So really like the side of that. Saturday is a day where the men and women both play at home during the course of the day. I hesitate to call it a doubleheader because it's, there's a gap between those games, but still, you know what I'm saying? So no, I really like the way things are shaping up on a lot of fronts right now.
It's double dribble, Derek. It's double.
No, is that what it is? Okay.
Double dribble.
It's double dribble.
Yeah, double dribble.
When you see Lamont, what do you see in his relationship that he has with his players?
It's interesting because he interacts with them so well. He relates to them really well. LP's almost as old as me, but he really relates to those guys on such a great level. There is no question. They know who's in charge. It's not too buddy-buddy. He doesn't have to have a good cop, bad cop relationship where somebody else on the staff is the hammer. None of that's required. But at the same time, he communicates in a way that I think he really reaches those guys, and they really play hard for him. They're happy. Obviously, they love the success they're having for themselves, but I really think they do enjoy seeing him get propped up and have that success as well when they are playing well. It's a fun group, and the mix there in that regard is just it's as good as you could ask for. They are really connected, and not just the players. The connectivity, I think, runs really well between the coach and coaches, assistants as well, and that roster. And so when you see him get angry about something that somebody's done, but then you watch how after the initial anger, how he goes about expressing what he didn't like about the situation, where he wants the adjustment to be made. It's fun to watch as you have a chance to see it more and more and understand what he's doing. Because last year there were times where you just felt like he was running around with both hands tied behind his back, and there just wasn't much he could do about things in certain circumstances. And now you don't get that at all.
I was thinking about you the other day because I was listening. I'd listen to you, and then I put it on the TV, and I can't remember who it was. Who was it? I don't know who it was, but he got all pissed off about something. Lamont did, and the camera just so happened to show him, and he turned around and he walked down, and his finger just kind of moved, and he just looked at somebody and pointed, just say, "Get in there, you get out." And I just started laughing because before the season, you said, well, he's got options, right. If somebody screws up, he just go throw the next guy in there now. And it worked. But yeah, Derek, to your point, going back to that, he couldn't do that last year.
Right. He had no choices, man. There was somebody last year, I'll just tell you, who basically pulled themselves out of the lineup because of an injury that no one else on the staff, the training staff, seemed to be really concerned with. Mm-hmm. And his comment to me was, you know what? In past years, if someone told me that they couldn't go, I would have told them, well, then I'll let you know when you're back in, because you may make that decision on when you're out, but I'll make the decision on when you're back in. And he was lamenting the fact that I don't even have that hammer to play. I don't have that card to play right now. And that's tough. That's tough on any coach when you were stretched that thin from a personnel standpoint, that you can have things dictated to you that you're not interested in standing for or putting up with. So he doesn't have to worry about that now. And the addition of Murray Boyles makes it even better. That's one more quality guy there to choose from. And he trusts guys up and down that roster. I mean, heck, you didn't even see Benjamin Bozeman's-Verdonk get in the game Saturday, and there wasn't anything against BBV. It's just Murray Boyles is going to take those front court minutes to some degree, and Josh had been playing better in practice, so Josh Gray had kind of moved back past BBV, and that I don't think that's something you can count on every day. I think the competition will determine who's playing better in practice as to who gets called, off the bench first, but that's nice that when you've got guys that are capable of helping you, and you're not even getting that far into the rotation just yet. So,
a couple quick questions, and we'll let you run, Derek. And you've got work to do. You got somewhere to be, so you can answer them very quickly. Talon Cooper, I just, golly, I love watching. He plays in slow motion, and it makes his team play so fast. I love it.
Yeah, he is an orchestrator, and I was digging through some of the KenPom numbers this morning, and when you get into the individual stuff and see where he shows up in a lot of rankings of his efficiency numbers are the best on the team offensively. He's got, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain a lot of these numbers. Either people know some of these analytics or they don't. And I can't be the one to educate you on that. But as far as an offensive rating, he's got the best one on the team. And there's a little more that goes into that than just, points scored, obviously. He's top 50 in the country among individual players in offensive rating. And that's pretty significant when you look at the other guys on that list. If I were to go in there and take a look at, who's at the top of an offensive rating list, the names aren't going to surprise you. Zach Edey's number 1 and PJ Hall's number 2. And you've got some small school guys, obviously, that jump in there, but he's way up there. And Michi's really good too, but overall Talon's numbers are better. And it's really, something that's based on the fact that he's shooting it very well. He's at 50% from 3. He's at 50% from 2. He obviously leads this team in his ability to distribute. He's got an assist rate that's top 120 in the nation. He's just been incredibly efficient, and he doesn't turn it over much. And he knows, as we talked earlier in this year, JB, he had kind of been asked to step up defensively and take on a bigger role as far as against some of those teams we ran into where the lead guards were much more about attacking off the dribble, and he had to be the guy to try and block that path. We haven't seen as much of that the last 2 games, but we definitely saw it against George Washington and against Notre Dame and Grand Canyon, and he was at the front of the list on all 3 of those games as far as assignments. So, yeah, he could easily be that unknown commodity that turns into a potential MVP for this team, in spite of Michi obviously being the leader in terms of scoring, and he's shooting it in so much better. BJ giving you such reliability in the post. Do not underestimate the performance of Talon Cooper and what he means to this team. That's for sure.
No way. Guard play's been awesome. And finally, Derek, next 4 games here. What's important? What do you want to? I don't know if it's what you want to see. You're not coaching the team, but what do you think is important for this team to be able to achieve, on top of the wins, to have a nice start to SEC play?
Honestly, I want to see them come out of that stretch. Well, obviously 4-0, but I want to see them come out of that stretch healthy. And I want to see them come out of that stretch where you don't see any bad habits developing, because you maybe won't be pressed as much to perform against CSU or Florida A&M specifically. You just want to make sure that everybody's still got their focus where it needs to be, because when you turn the page and get into conference play, we know how tough it can be. And when you realize that after that home game with Mississippi State, you've got road trips to Alabama and Missouri right behind that. So you don't want to get behind the 8 ball in league play by struggling out of the gate. So yeah, that's kind of the way I would look at it.
Well, they got 8 halves to keep it clicking and really get it going, and then, man, hard to believe we could be already circling January 6th, the start of SEC play at noon. Get your tickets and sell it out because they're going to need it. It's going to be a tough month after that on the road in Tuscaloosa, on the road in Columbia, Missouri. Derek, you know the drill.
I got a question for JC now.
I'm sorry. What is it?
Football plans for kicker. Do they have something in place there? Because I got to be honest, I've been focused on other stuff, and I look up today, see Jeter's going to Notre Dame. I'm like, okay, do we have a plan B? Is there someone else already on the roster, or is that going to be something where the portal comes into play?
I actually have a little scoop on that for you, Derek. I had a conversation about it last night. I guess I'm just not focused on kickers, but it could end up that Jeter ends up being the most significant loss for Carolina in the portal. It could end up that way.
Yeah, sure.
They think Alex Herrera can step in and do the job. And then they got Mason Love, who is a punter and a kicker, coming in with this class from the Kansas City area, who's an All-American type. Whether he's a punter or a PK remains to be seen. But, Jeter was so freaking accurate. I don't know how you, actually replace a guy like that. But they think Herrera's a good kicker, too. But there's a reason they brought him in and like him. So, go Alex Herrera. There's your new kicker. There you go. Okay. You learned something. Y'all learned something today. You're not going to learn who the new
breaking
welcome home is, though. I have to keep it quiet. But I'll just say, I'll have to say this one takes care of a position of need for good for this class. So there you go. Speculate away, friends.
Okay.
Very, very well.
That's what I've been sitting here working on. I mean, when Beamer should know that I'm on the show. We can't have these things happen.
Shane,
right?
I know. Come on, Shane. 28 minutes from now.
I'm going to complain about so I'm sitting here glued to my cell phone answering 15 different texts. So anyway,
Shane. Yeah, come on, man. You know the drill. I mean, you can't do this till 11 o'clock at night. People are sleeping. Well, Dynamite drop in money. Well done there, JC. Hey, Derek, go get a win this weekend. We'll squeeze you in sometime next week and get one more quick update before we kind of break for the Christmas holiday and things like that. But always really appreciate your generosity and your time. And there's nobody out there who's better. That 40 minutes of basketball sure does make listening fun. So thanks so much for that.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
There you go. The great Derek Scott, voice of Gamecock basketball. And soon, double dipping, basketball and baseball right around the corner. Matter of fact, we might have Mark Kingston in here next week. Got to figure out that schedule, but might have him popping in for a couple of minutes as well. All right, we need to step aside for a break. We are aware that Shane, just did what he does, steals the spotlight from the hardworking folks like us, just trying to give you a program. There's a new welcome home out there. JC said it will be held for a little bit of time, but Carolina is doing damage in the portal, and this one is good. That's for sure.
I'll apologize to everybody because I've been I'm kind of an old school recruiting guy, right? But as I've done the show and we have this media network now, and we have the collective and all that, so I'm knee deep in all this other stuff it's not really nose to the ground recruiting. And so I've been getting the names and just throwing them out there like a crazy person. I had no idea that our protocol on thebigspur.com has changed. And so I got a call from Little after the last one. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm just busting them out there. Hey, this guy's committed. He's like, we've been for about 2 years now, JC. We've been holding it until the player announces and teasing. Oh, okay. So I have to apologize that I violated my own website's protocol with all this. So,
Phil, Shane JC just eliminated Shane from coming on our program for another year. So that's wonderful news.
Great.
Well, thanks a lot. Let me text Shane and clear this up. That wasn't JC. He was hacked.
Coordinate this better. Yeah,
who hacked him? Was it Wes Mitchell hacked him? Let's come out with. I'm gonna throw Wes under the bus on this one.
Wes Mitchell actually had a really good tweet today about the offensive line. You guys can go check that out.
Wes is,
he made a lot of sense over somebody that was like nobody can get. These guys aren't gonna get any better, just because even when they're healthy, you didn't even see them play healthy, dude.
Yeah.
How do you know this?
Thank you. Wes put them in their place. I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, well, Wes just pointed out. Look, you have all these. You have the best classes, 2 classes in school history, and then the older guys like Nichols. You can't tell me they didn't miss Jalen Nichols last year.
Yeah.
Look at how Jalen was playing toward the end of 2022. I mean, certainly they missed him. Certainly Vershawn Lee getting hurt against Florida, that not really being the same was a factor. I mean, there's just a lot of. People just need to get. It's. You know what? Guess what? They don't have to be perfect on the O-line next year because they have a dual threat quarterback. That when he faces pressure, guys are going to go up their get out of their lanes. He's going to run right by him for gigantic gains.
Stay in your lane.
So he's going to stay in his lane. So, and Rocket Sanders, as Brad pointed out, can make people miss. So,
there's done, Wes.
Thank you, Wes.
Good job, Wes. I love Wes, dude. You talk about like one of the nicest people on the planet. Shout out to Wes Mitchell on the other side of the world. All right, we gotta go. Phil, we gotta go. We gotta hit a timeout. So let's do that. And still plenty to get to in the final 25 minutes. So hang tight. ITG will be right back.
Chicken cock originated in Kentucky, like so many other bourbons. And so the resurrection of it, Paris, Kentucky, that's the county seat of Bourbon County. So much of this whiskey was being made in that Bourbon County, put on ships and barges and shipped down Ohio, down to Mississippi, and got to New Orleans, where it got distributed all over the world. And people kept saying, well, hey, I want some more of that whiskey from Bourbon County. And so that's how bourbon whiskey got its name. And chicken cock originated actually in Paris, Kentucky, which is today Bourbon County.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company, Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks! The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks!
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
This holiday season, you can give a gift like never before. Hey guys, it's JB. Rescues in Resin produces custom designed wood and resin products. From tables to wall art, coasters to cutting boards, and pretty much anything you can dream. Proud Gamecocks and veteran-owned, Dustin and Tabitha are creating products that will blow your family and friends away when they take the wrapping paper off this Christmas. Check them out in the Chief Sports app now to get your custom order in before it's too late. Rescues in Resin are also proud supporters of Carolina Rise and proud partners of the Chief Sports Network. Rescues in Resin at gmail.com or in the Chief Sports app is where you can find them. Change your gift-giving game today by ordering a custom design through our friends Tabitha and Dustin and Rescues in Resin.
My company is Billy G's Carolina Barbecue. We are based in Columbia, South Carolina. And we have 2 lines of sauces and a spice rub. I mean, when people try our product, they know it's a gourmet product and it can go on any type of food. It's not surprisingly delicious, it's expectedly delicious.
The State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you create an affordable price just for you.
Contact local agent Gary Patterson for your personal price plan today.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! Carve the turkey, turn the ball game on. Make Bloody Marys, 'cause we all want one. Send somebody to the stop and go. We need some celery and a can of fake snow. A bag of lemons and some Diet Sprites. A box of tampons, some Salem lights. Hallelujah, everybody say cheese. Merry Christmas from the family. Feliz
Navidad. 1:45 final segment Thursday afternoon. It's chilly outside inside the Gamecocks, the show. Welcome back. We are always live from the Sinorama Studios and, of course, served by our friends at Chicken Cock. Chicken Cock whiskey is a perfect gift this time of year for that bourbon drinker in your family. You can find it. You might be going, well, I don't know where that is. What liquor store has it? Well, if you have the Chief Sports app, that'll tell you exactly where it is. Click on the Chicken Cock Challenge on the home page of the Chief Sports app. Shane Bieber just picked up a new commitment a little bit ago. He will be announcing soon. And when he does announce, everybody will know. But that name will be held. Congratulations, though, young man. If you happen to be watching our show, we congratulate you for committing to play to the University of South Carolina. Tomorrow, Hale McGranahan will be in tomorrow at 11:05, basically. So an extensive conversation will be had about this week. And I'm sure between now and then, there will be some additional changes in the portal for Carolina. And I feel quite confident that there will be positive changes as well. So that'll be a good time to get Hale in. I won't be here tomorrow. I will be playing golf. But good news for those of you, except for that one guy, Phil, that doesn't like me.
Did you see he made some comments on some of our posts yesterday? I was
oh,
like,
no,
well,
I didn't.
You know, he has the big problem he has is with Mike, and Mike filled me in on it, and it's hilarious. So I'll just leave it.
That's a different guy.
I'm not getting into it, but it's fun. Mike
yeah.
called afterward, but it's I was like, let's just ban him, you know.
I was thinking
next
somebody
time.
So
anyway,
keep an eye out. If he shows up here, I'll make sure we dispose of him promptly.
Kick this guy's ass. Are one of you headed somewhere? Are you driving, JC?
No, Alexa just came on. But sometimes she'll catch my voice, and she comes on and starts talking. Alexa, off.
She's telling Mike's story in the background there. Is that what was going on?
Alexa's becoming self-aware, Saunders says. That's true. She's going to start a nuclear war. Naked Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to show up in front of my house.
Right.
Xavier asked
I need your
from the
bullets
Merry
and your
Christmas
guns.
from the family bumper. Do you remember when Marlboro had a point system catalog? I do, and we've come a long way in society, haven't we, Xavier? You know, you used to get more points for smoking as many cigarettes as you could. Like, hey, look, man, we're going to give you a lot of points. Now, you're going to die pretty soon, but we're going to give you a bunch of points if you keep buying cigarettes. Like, yeah. Society has certainly changed. There's no doubt. No offense to all you smokers. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm just saying the point system of, shoving a pack of cigarettes in your mouth a day probably wasn't the healthiest thing on the planet.
Phil and I would be rich as hell if they still had that, man. We'd have all
Really?
kinds of stuff.
I should have saved all of those.
I'm kidding. I'm trying my dangest to quit. I'm like, and I've cut back way back. So anyway.
You got to keep cutting, JC. You got to keep cutting until you've cut all the way through.
Don't quit quitting. Don't quit quitting.
Yeah.
I can't quit you.
Continue on that. On that note.
I'd still wear a Marlboro jacket though if they had my size. I just wear it because it pisses people off. What are you doing? So.
Yeah. Again today, Monroe Mills. His official visit is on campus in Columbia, South Carolina. Who is Monroe Mills? He is a left tackle. He started both at left and right tackle. I think 22. Career starts for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, but he's originally from Columbia, Missouri. So hopefully he doesn't make his way back up there. But Gamecocks have him in on a visit today, and Kyle Kennard, edge rusher out of Georgia Tech, big kid, 6'5", 250 pounds. He is also on an official visit today. Keep an eye on this one here, guys. Keep an eye on this one. Not saying not to keep an eye on the offensive tackle either. Probably should rephrase that, JC. But keep an eye on this Kyle Kennard kid who is in town today for South Carolina. He would be, talk about a plug-and-play edge guy in 3-3-5 and 4-2-5 and this, that, and the other. He's a guy who, if he was wearing the garnet and black, it would be hard to keep him off the field.
They love him. Carolina really thinks he's better than a lot of maybe the higher-rated guys. Florida State had him in on a visit last weekend. As we all know, Florida State's probably the best portal recruiting team out there. They don't just bring anybody in. So, and I trust Travian Robertson and Sterling Lucas to evaluate their position, right? So they like him, and so we'll see. We'll ask who the competition is. I think Florida State is one of the teams in the mix for him. But third down guy, very productive on third down. So I think if they get him, that's another position that all of a sudden looks a little bit better. So.
Well, I think it looks a lot better. I mean, I don't think I mean, come on, what's going on here? I don't think JC that they have to take an edge guy.
They don't.
But I think that if they're right, again, I guess I'm regurgitating, so I'll just do that. If the right guy is there for the taking, they're going to sign him.
That's the thing. It's like, unlike last year where you didn't, Strawn coming back. Strawn played a lot of football this year, man, but he just really wasn't the same. And that happens. You go and you got, you go get JT Gear. He's having a great camp. High ankle sprain. Right before third scrimmage, I think, right before they played North Carolina. It's tough to recover from that. Tough to recover from that. And be 100%. The Drew Tuazama thing we talked about. We don't need to rehash what I wrote about that and all that. So they tried, but edge
there's only a handful, if that, right?
Yeah,
of
it's
really
a
quality edge
high
guys,
value kind of position, and Kennard's kind of one of those sneaky good guys, though. I mean, Georgia Tech, like I said, they weren't world beaters on defense this year, but every now and then they'd make some plays and stuff, and you'd see kind of like, man, I hadn't seen Georgia Tech with these kind of players in a long time, because Paul Johnson basically turned them into a Western Carolina level roster while he was there, because he refused to recruit and couldn't recruit, and it was all about his option system and stuff like that. So they had a hole to dig out of, and then the portal just destroyed Georgia Tech. I mean, it was so bad. But Kennard's one of those guys that he's gone in there, he's developed really well, and has made some plays. So we'll see sort of what comes of it, but they love him. The South Carolina thinks the world of him.
It's 1:50 here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Again, we will continue to kind of monitor the things that are happening. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. and probably be able to have much more on that. But South Carolina right now really looking good in the NCAA transfer portal. Matter of fact, looking as good as just about anybody in college football as they've begun to meet their needs in the transfer portal. Can I ask a quick totally off topic, everything type question to you two? Because I keep seeing this, and I'm just so glad that I don't really follow this that closely. I don't know what is going on in the NBA, and why is everybody so mad at, or maybe they're not mad, but I don't know. But what's going on with Draymond Green? Is he did he get beat up or something? Like, what's happening?
I don't care.
Yeah, I saw the video. He got hit. I can't remember the other player because I don't follow it that well either. But it's pretty tight defense. Draymond said he was kind of pulling at his jersey or whatever, and he just kind of flails around like this with his fist clenched and up and clocks the guy in the face. So again, Draymond hitting people and punching, like literally punching people in the face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, he is indefinitely suspended, and as well he should be.
Yeah. I don't pay attention to it, but I just keep seeing all this stuff,
Draymond,
and I'm I've been too lazy to actually go look into it at all.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm not going to. That was good enough for me.
Yeah.
That was a good enough explanation. So I'm totally satisfied with that. Also, from ESPN this morning, the ESPN 2023 Freshman All-American team is out, and Jelon Kilgore is in. He has been named an ESPN Freshman All-American. Jelon Kilgore from the University of South Carolina. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I would like to read the names on the defense, and y'all tell me how many of them will be playing in the SEC next year. Well, there's a kid from Purdue, but we're not worried about him. I'm just kidding. No, that's fantastic. These kids deserve the praise. Dylan Thiemann, Jelon Kilgore, Carolina, Jordan Castell, Florida, Caleb Downs, Alabama, Torian York, A&M, Suntarine Perkins, Ole Miss, Anthony Hill Jr., Texas. I mean, it's the whole defense. Carolina's going to pretty much see most all of them next year. They'll also see TJ Parker from Clemson. They're not in the SEC, and nobody's going to let them in. Might not be in the ACC anymore either, but who knows? Who cares, quite frankly, at the end of the day, where they end up. So congratulations to all those guys, but certainly congratulations to Jelon Kilgore and being named a freshman All-American. For what it's worth, there were 3 freshman All-American on the offensive side of the football out of the SEC. So that's how many is that? Is that 3 or 4 freshman All-American teams Jelon Kilgore's been named to?
Yeah, he was on 24/7 Sports, true freshman team.
24/7 SEC, ESPN. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought. And Trevon Baugh was named All-SEC on the All-SEC freshman team. I'm pretty sure Big Tree did not make that, which I was a little bit surprised by that. But Trevon Baugh did, so that was very encouraging, very neat to see for him as well. So, there it is. All right, a couple questions left here at the end. Lauren Simons, hey Lauren, said Juice Wells left a heart on a Twitter post that said, "Juice, you are a Gamecock." That's what I'm saying. We talked about this earlier. It's not over, so we'll see what happens. Xavier asked, where do we stand with the older Kilgore? JC?
Maybe he's what I call hard. Maybe he wants to play, and I think with him being a safety, he kind of is looking at it going, these guys have a lot of safeties. And so it kind of depends. So I wouldn't. And keep in mind, portal guys are different. Just like JUCOs make decisions differently depending on where exactly they are in their career. There's different criteria they're kind of looking for. And I know that he wants to play. So, we'll see what happens.
We need to go back old school here. We need to go back and get, well, they were twins, but brothers would be fine. We need the Overtons and the Kilgores to be half of the starting defense for Gamecock football. I remember a time when the Brinkleys and the Lindsays were walking around town whipping everyone's ass for looking at them the wrong way. At least the Lindsays were.
Those guys were a couple.
I went
Cowboys,
to school with those cats, dude.
They're a couple of Cowboys, man.
I literally had a guy put his arm on my shoulder one time, trying to move me out of the way at the end of a bar, and Jordy looked at him. He goes, "You touch him again, you're going to go through that freaking window." But he didn't say freaking. And I looked at him, I was like, "Dude, I don't think he meant that. I think he just, I don't think he knew I was." It's all good, Jordy.
And he meant it. I mean, that would have happened.
Oh yeah, he was going to literally throw him through the window at Rocco's.
Well, those two guys, man. Woo. I tell you.
Oh man. So, anyways,
all in the family.
But I tell you what, I'd like to. JC, you said something about this about somebody. I can't remember what it was. You said he's mean as a rattlesnake. I'm like, well, the Lindsays were mean as a rat. They wanted to kill everybody. Like literally, they wanted to kill everybody. They just walked around town looking to beat people up. So
they were tough on the field too. Though I mean, Jordan started at DN, kind of a little bit out of necessity there under Tyrone.
So did Casper. Casper was out of necessity.
Casper started too, and it was effective. And I think the one that got me, Dusty got hurt. I think it was at 06 when Jasper got there, and then because Carolina had Jasper, but then they kind of struggled at that other linebacker spot until Rodney Paulk got there and started playing. But Dusty, like if you notice, he took over for Ricardo Hurley that year at middle linebacker down the stretch in 05. And it helped the Gamecock defense quite a bit.
Big time.
Because quite frankly, Dustin was just better. He knew the plays better. Ricardo would get lost and run up the wrong. You got to have eye discipline and stuff to play linebacker. And then he hurt his knee, and then that was it. We never heard from him again. So that was disappointing about those two. Is that I really think Dustin Lindsay was a hell of a middle linebacker, and maybe could have even played in the National Football League had he continued his trajectory past the first Spurrier year, but he just never happened. It's never happened.
Well,
so if anybody asks, I said something nice about both those guys, and
that's right. Yeah, you got the rest covered. You're pretty good there.
I have nothing bad to say about either one of those guys.
You don't want to get beat up. I don't blame you. I'm with you. Hey, you know what? That's the type of mentality you need on defense. So, like, I'm going to whip your you-know-what. And Carolina's got a couple of those guys, but looking to add some more. So, between now and tomorrow at 11 a.m., we'll keep our eyes on Bron Gatling, wide receiver. We'll keep our eyes on Kyle Kennard, defensive end. We'll keep our eyes on A.J. Swan. We'll keep our eyes on the Howell kid at South Carolina State. We'll keep our eyes on the tight end at Ball State. We got our eyes everywhere for Gamecock football in the portal. They are really trying to do some damage, and they are. Thanks to Derek Scott and Brad Crawford both for joining us today. Thanks to JC for guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty sure JC has not slept from the email list and the text list that Phil and I received. I woke up this morning and said, "Jeez, please, JC was doing work."
Woke up with emails in my inbox from 5 o'clock hour. I was like, "That's 4
hour
o'clock
time."
time. Yeah.
Exactly.
There was 2 I needed to sit. I was like, I actually had some time this morning. I worked on Chief stuff, like our stuff. I worked on our stuff. Like
I know.
I
saw that.
So, yeah.
So thanks for your hard work, JC. We really appreciate that. Thanks to Phil. We'll see all of you tomorrow at 11 on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.